Hello and welcome to another episode of A Brief History. Today's episode, Steven Universe. Ready, set, wait. What's that sound?
Win the fight and then go out pizzas. We are the crystal gems. Always. Yo. I'm Michaela Dietz. I voice Amethyst on Steven Universe.
Oh, well, hi. Nice to meet you. If I can ask what you're doing here?
Well, good sir, I've seen some of your brief history of things. Heard you were doing one on Steven Universe, so I figured I'd crash the party. You know, spice it up a little. Come on, gotta have that spice in your life. Ready, set, go!
Well, that's my thing. I usually... Never mind. April 5th, 2010. Following a kind of awkward period in the company's history, children's TV company Cartoon Network premieres the first episode of their new show, Pendleton Ward's Adventure Time. This show turned into a runaway success that helped usher in a new era for the Cartoon Network channel, but all of that's a story for another day. For now, we focus on a member of the Adventure Time production team, Rebecca Sugar.
Yep, Rebecca Senpai.
Yep, sure. Cool. Anyway, having joined the Adventure Time team as a storyboard revisionist in 2009, Rebecca Sugar eventually found herself being promoted to storyboard artist and writer, where she helped create mini episodes of the show between seasons 2 and 5. And she was even responsible for several fan-favorite moments in the show, including Marceline's Fry song from her first ever episode, It Came from the Nightosphere. However, Rebecca Sugar had ambitions beyond just Adventure Time, wishing to create a cartoon of her own. So when the then vice president of comedy animation at Cartoon Network put out an open call to the staff for pilot ideas, Rebecca Sugar took her opportunity to speak up and begin her pitch. Sugar explained her concept for a comedy and drama show she called Steven Universe, about a boy named Steven and his family of aliens known as the Crystal Gems. Garnet,
Square Mom,
Pearl,
Bird Mom,
and Amethyst.
Small Mom.
Aiming to mix the worlds of both fantasy and reality, Steven Universe would follow the story of the Crystal Gems as they fought to save the Earth from various interstellar threats. All the while Steven, a half-human, half-gem hybrid, learns to utilize his powers, help the gems, and do other totally normal things that come with growing up.
I just turned all my fingers into cats!
Following her pitch, Steven Universe was approved for development, and Rebecca Sugar was able to begin working on a pilot episode in between her work on Adventure Time. And her efforts culminated in late 2012 when the Steven Universe pilot was completed and presented to Cartoon Network, featuring the voice work of Zach Callison as Steven, Estelle as Garnet, Dee Dee Magno Hall as Pearl, and Michaela Dietz as Amethyst.
What up, nerds? Shardy Squad!
And while in some ways this pilot was very different than the show it eventually became, it still boasted a little bit of everything that we've come to expect from Steven Universe. Singing, monsters, cool character designs, some kooky sci-fi fantasy stuff, and of course, Amethyst causing pretty much the entire conflict.
You destroy one underwater sea shrine and suddenly you're a liability? Not cool, man. Besides, Amethyst doesn't always cause conflict. It's usually Steven.
Cartoon Network liked Rebecca Sugar's pilot, greenlighting Steven Universe for full production and marking Rebecca Sugar's departure from working full-time on Adventure Time, Adventure Time. So Steven Universe was now on the road to its first ever broadcast. And in order to help market and build hype for the show, Cartoon Network uploaded the full pilot episode online on May 21st, 2013, and even exhibited it at that year's San Diego Comic-Con. And considering the popularity of her work on Adventure Time, I think it's safe to say that many were interested to see what Rebecca Sugar and her crew had cooking. So on November 4th, 2013, Cartoon Network officially premiered Steven Universe, but only after giving the show quite the extensive makeover.
Garnet's hair grew, Amethyst stitched her fanny pack, and Pearl got biker shorts.
The show premiered with 2 episodes of what was slated to be its first 26-episode season. Well, I say 26, but only 10 days after the show premiered, the network actually added an extra 26 episodes, meaning that this one season of a brand new show ran for 52 freaking episodes between November of 2013 and March of 2015. I mean, yeah, each episode was only about 11 minutes long, but that's still a lot of faith to put into season 1 of a brand new original series. Adventure Time's first season only had half that many episodes, but luckily Steven Universe absolutely delivered. Within just its first few episodes, it offered bright and colorful art, catchy original music, lighthearted humor, surprisingly effective drama, and even a good bit of intrigue. From the very beginning, the show had a deep lore running through it that was only expanding with each episode, drawing in a wealth of curious viewers who were dying to learn more about this new world that they were being given. And all of this combined made Steven Universe Cartoon Network's newest smash hit. In fact, the show was such a success that Cartoon Network didn't really even wait before jumping into its next season. The show was renewed for a season 2 by July 25th, 2014, and that second season began literally the day after the season 1 finale premiered. And from this point forward, Steven Universe only grew and grew and grew. Today, in 2017, the show is in the middle of its 5th season and shows no signs of slowing down, pulling in a consistent viewership of well over 1 million, sometimes even 2 million views per episode. The show has gained a massive fan base over the years, and not just among its target audience. Much like Adventure Time before it, Steven Universe has become incredibly popular with kids, adults, and Thomas Sanders for various reasons. The show has a definite timeless feel, aiming to tell strong stories rather than just pander to a potential audience. Characters have fully fleshed out personalities and backstories, music and art are full of passion and effort, and the show tackles all sorts of mature themes, including depression, loss, living up to the world's expectations, and even gender and sexuality. Things that you would have never seen discussed in a mainstream kids cartoon only 10 years prior, let alone handled in such respectable and intelligent ways. And none of this has gone unrecognized. Beyond its passionate and dedicated fan community, Steven Universe has also been nominated for several major awards, including Primetime Emmys. So with all of this success, naturally, Steven Universe would quickly go on to see all sorts of merchandise to suck fans' wallets dry. There is no shortage of Steven Universe clothes, accessories, mugs, Funko Pop vinyl figures, iPhone cases, and more. However, at the time of this video, Steven Universe has only seen very limited home video releases, especially in the US. None of the show's 4 complete seasons have received box set Blu-ray releases in North America, even though fellow Cartoon Network hits Adventure Time and Regular Show have seen several DVD and Blu-ray box sets. But that's okay, we have Steven Universe Monopoly instead, and that's a big deal. They don't just give those to everyone, you know, you gotta be something really important to get your own Monopoly game. Things like Pokemon, M&Ms, and raisins. I think I got a little lost here.
Yo, I thought you were a professional. This kind of thing never happens on Jaden animations.
I'm sorry. All I was trying to get at was that Steven Universe is very popular, and it's actually begun to spread out beyond just the TV show. Since the show's premiere, the world has seen several Steven Universe companion books, including comics, art books, and even storybooks by Rebecca Sugar herself. And on top of this, the show has also seen a few video game adaptations, the most prominent of which was 2015's Steven Universe Attack the Light for iOS and Android devices. Attack the Light was a mobile turn-based RPG by Grumpy Face Studios that was actually incredibly well received. And in March of 2017, it was announced that a sequel to this game, known as Steven Universe Save the Light, was slated for release on consoles later in the year. And I mean, look at this! It's like Steven Universe meets Paper Mario, and it looks awesome!
I know, dude, I need this in my life.
Do you see this 3D version of Beach City?
Right? Oh, I want to eat it. Wait, are we being paid to say any of this?
Not a cent.
Cool.
Steven Universe is easily one of the most important Western cartoons of the last decade. From its masterful storytelling and memorable characters to its striking pastel art direction and wonderful soundtrack, Steven Universe just hits all the marks. Very few cartoons are as widely appealing, artistic, and progressive as Steven Universe. Adventure Time may have come first and may technically be the better-known show overall, but Steven Universe is no slouch, as the show has already begun to solidify itself as a new Cartoon Network classic, joining the ranks of Powerpuff Girls, Samurai Jack, and more. But even among those classics, I think Steven Universe is special. The show and its contemporaries definitely mark a shift in how we approach both making and watching cartoons. And considering the impact the show has had in only its first few years on the air, I think it's safe to say that Steven Universe has all the makings to become one of the defining television shows of this generation. Thanks for watching, guys. DFTBA. Whew, well, that went all right, all things considered. Anything more to add, Michaela? Michaela? Okay, you keep doing you then. Okay, I'm straight up out of ideas on how to write intros for these Steven Universe videos. You know I love the show, you know it's my favorite, you know I talk about it constantly, and you know I've recapped the entire plot of all 6 seasons plus the movie in 2 big recap videos. But what if 2 videos became 1 videos? Yeah, that's all I got. Basically, I felt weird about my 2 Steven Universe recaps being split up into separate videos, so now they're fused together into one Ultimate Steven Universe Recap video. I don't know. Don't worry, I'll be back soon with an actual new video that you guys have been asking for. I just need a little bit more time to work on it. But for now, here is the actual complete entirety of Steven Universe. Oh boy. Okay, so to start, Steven Universe is a Cartoon Network show about a kid named Steven who's a member of this group called the Crystal Gems. Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl! Garnet's chill, Amethyst's kinda punky, and Pearl looks like a bird. The Gems are a race of, like, alien beings that are basically just rocks with brains that project physical forms. So, like, their bodies aren't real, but they are. Like, they can still get hurt and stuff. I don't know, but basically, Steven's a gem too. Mostly. He's the child of Rose Quartz, the former leader of the Crystal Gems, and Greg Universe, just some dude. So he's part gem and part human. Rose actually had to give up her physical form in order for Steven to exist, so she's pretty much dead, and Steven's got her gem. The Gems all live in a town called Beach City and go on adventures fighting monsters and stuff. But Steven's gotta stay home because he doesn't know how to work his gem powers yet. Most early episodes center around explaining different aspects of the gem race and showing Steven learn how to use his gem powers. Steven eventually gets to go on missions, he learns he can shapeshift, he gets a magic pink lion, he meets a girl named Connie, he finds out he has healing powers, he learns that gems can fuse together, he finds this magic mirror that turns out to be another gem called Lapis Lazuli, that one's important, and he almost freaking dies of old age in a shockingly real scene that disturbed the heck out of me the first time I saw it. Oh, and he can summon his mom's shield. That's important, I guess. But even with all that, the real main plot of this season involves the Gems warping around the Earth and fighting these monsters that are actually other gems that have been corrupted. So now they're scary monsters. But even scary monsters have feelings. But how did all these gems get on Earth in the first place? Well, remember how I said gems are aliens? They come from this planet called Homeworld, which is run by 4 ultra-powerful gems called diamonds: yellow, blue, white, and pink. They're mostly just taller than everyone else, and they invaded Earth, tried to destroy all of its organic life, and turned the whole planet into a place to grow more gems. But the Crystal Gems rebelled against Homeworld, a freaking war broke out, and a ton of gems were shattered. Or, you know, killed. But the Crystal Gems somehow managed to save the Earth from being colonized, so things were mostly chill. But then, thousands of years later, some suspicious stuff starts going down. Steven discovers that a new gem with these robot limbs named Peridot is checking up on the planet and repairing various warp stations that lead back to Homeworld. This is a pretty obvious problem for a bunch of war criminals hiding out on Earth. So the gems destroy the warp pad, obviously. But that only causes more problems as Peridot brings a whole freaking ship to Earth with Lapis, that mirror gem, and this big freaking scary gem, Jasper. Jasper thinks Steven is Rose Quartz, so she kidnaps everyone and starts flying them back to Homeworld. And this is where we find out the first big twist of the series: Ruby and Sapphire. On Jasper's ship, Steven finds 2 more imprisoned gems, Ruby and Sapphire, who are actually Garnet. Yes, this entire time, Garnet's been a fusion. Ruby and Sapphire reunite to form Garnet. Jasper gets all, fusions for poo-poo butt gems who are weak. But then Garnet's just like, I'm gonna rap now. She kicks Jasper's butt, the ship crash lands back on Earth, and it all culminates with one last face-off on the beach. In a moment of desperation, Jasper fuses with Lapis, forming a new gem called Malachite. But Lapis manages to control the fusion enough to retreat into the ocean and stop anyone from being hurt. And yeah, it's pretty intense. How'd this season start again?
I just turned all my fingers into cats!
So yeah, things got real by the end of season 1. And with Jasper out of the picture for now, season 2 is mostly about finding Peridot and dealing with these creepy new gem monsters made out of fused pieces of shattered gems. They're like reanimated mutant zombie Frankenstein monsters, and it's kind of disturbing, actually. Meanwhile, Pearl is teaching Steven's friend Connie to sword fight. Yay! Which comes in handy when the mutated gem experiments start showing up in town. Oh no! That could cause such an imminent threat to all the innocent people. I'm sure they're going to warn all the citizens and Peridot! Oh my gosh, get her! Kill it! Yeah, next episode, Perry's back. And the whole gem mutants reaching Beach City thing is just kinda abandoned. I'm sure they'll be fine. The gems finally manage to capture Peridot, and she tells them about this thing called the cluster, which is an enormous bioweapon built out of a ton of those gem fusion experiments that have been buried in the Earth's crust. It's been building and building over thousands of years, and once it takes form, it would totally destroy the planet. Wow! That's a pretty huge threat. They should probably warn everyone, and maybe bring in the military. Or they decide to build a drill to dig to the center of the Earth completely on their own using spare parts they found in a barn. Yep, great, sure, makes total sense, whatever. And the rest of the season is just the 5 of them working on this drill as Peridot learns more about the Earth and eventually becomes a crystal gem herself. Redemption! Woo! Honestly though, when I first started watching Steven Universe, the whole Peridot becomes a crystal gem arc was basically what made me officially fall in love with the series. It's just too wholesome. But anyway, now on to season 3, and everything is going wrong. Malachite's back and the cluster is forming both at the same time. So the gang has to split up, with Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl fighting Malachite, leaving Steven and Peridot to deal with the cluster completely on their own. Malachite gets her butt whipped, and the gems save Lapis from Jasper, which is good. But surprise, surprise, the drill sucks at destroying the cluster, and Steven and Perry might die, which is bad. But then Steven somehow manages to communicate with the cluster. The cluster just wants to form, but Steven's like, but you have each other! And that works. Apparently. Steven, with the help of all the gem shards in the cluster, manages to place the whole thing in a stasis bubble. So like, it's dormant again, but it's still there. Good enough for me. And after that action-packed premiere, the rest of the season just kinda kicks around for a while. The main thing going on is the hunt for Jasper. But in the meantime, Steven finds another new gem, a former member of the Crystal Gems named Bismuth. She gets along with everyone really well, but has to be poofed again because she wanted to create this intense weapon to shatter gems. Basically, she wanted to go on a killing spree, so bye-bye, Bismuth. Right after that, Jasper's back! Get her! Kill it! Steven, Peridot, and Amethyst find Jasper building an army of corrupted gems. Amethyst tries to fight her off on her own, but gets her butt kicked. So Steven tries to help her out, and they accidentally end up fusing together. This is the first time Steven fuses with any of the main crystal gems, and it is so hype! But things get mega heavy again right after, as Jasper attempts to fuse with a corrupted gem, gets corrupted herself, and lets on about something horrible Rose did to Pink Diamond before going full monster and getting poofed by Peridot. Okay, yeah, that was a lot. And what was Jasper saying about Pink Diamond? Well, one thing I haven't mentioned is that Pink Diamond is dead, shattered by Rose Quartz. Yeah, so Steven's mom is a shatterer, and that's a pretty intense thing for a kid to go through. So naturally, in a show like Steven Universe that's all about being connected with your feelings, it's time for a wacky Roadrunner parody with Peridot! Yeah, we're entering season 4 now, and Steven Universe kinda has this habit of doing a lot of filler episodes right after things get interesting. So we just kinda do that for a while, until eventually we meet 2 new mysterious gems, Topaz and Aquamarine, who were sent by the Diamonds to kidnap Steven's friends. Steven manages to save them by giving himself over, claiming to be Rose Quartz, and the spaceship sets off for Homeworld. So now it's just Topaz, Aquamarine, Steven, and Lars. Ugh. Right? Haven't mentioned him yet. So, this is Lars. He's a human who works at a donut shop in Beach City, and for the majority of the show, he is the worst. He's always a jerk, he learns no lessons, and he is frustrating beyond belief to watch. He's the worst, and I hate him. Except, well, we'll get to that. Steven and Lars are taken to Homeworld, and Steven is put on trial for the shattering of Pink Diamond. But Steven's lawyer realizes that there are a ton of holes in the story. Like, how could anyone get that close to a diamond and no one notice or try to stop it? It doesn't make sense. Yellow gets totally fed up with all of this and starts raging, giving Steven and Lars time to escape. They crash land in a dark corner of Homeworld and meet a group of unusual gems called the Off-Colors. They're all different in some way, so they hide or else they'll be destroyed by these scanner droids that explode any gem they find. But Lars doesn't have a gem, so he's basically invisible. And once an attack starts, Lars decides to finally stand up and fight, saving everyone. But then Lars dies. But then he doesn't. Steven starts crying, and his tears bring Lars back to life. Remember I said he has healing powers? And now Lars is all pink, and his hair works like a portal that connects to Steven's lion, who also has portal hair. Don't question it, we're almost done. So Lars is back after being dead for 5 seconds, and now he's a good person. It took 4 seasons and the end of his life to do it, but Lars doesn't suck anymore. He and the Off-Colors escape Homeworld and start traveling space Star Trek style, while Steven escapes back to Beach City through Lars's hair. It's more normal than it sounds, I promise. Fast forward a bit, and Steven has a strange dream about Pink Diamond, where he sees Pearl sneak up behind her and draw a sword. And, Steven's dreams are usually astral projections, so that's concerning. He confronts Pearl about what he saw, and we get the biggest reveal of the entire series. Rose Quartz, Steven's mom, was Pink Diamond. Okay. So Pink was actually the one who wanted to rebel against the Diamonds, save Earth, and start a new life. So she created a new identity and killed off Pink by having Pearl take Rose's form and pretend to shatter her. And because Pink was Rose, and Rose's gem is now in Steven, that means Steven is Pink Diamond. Again, what? And with that news finally out in the open, everything starts happening at once. The Diamonds come to Earth to attack, the Cluster comes back out of nowhere and forms a giant arm like the Diamond ships, but is apparently fighting on the Crystal Gem side. That's pretty weird. Oh, and Bismuth is back. You know, the gem that wanted to shatter a bunch of people and even tried to shatter Steven? Yeah, everyone's just cool with her now. Being cool with attempted murderers is tight. Anyway, they all fight the Diamonds until Steven, through some weird psychic stuff that's never really explained, is finally able to convince Blue and Yellow Diamond that he really is Pink and stop the fighting. So Blue and Yellow aren't threats anymore. Not really. But we're not done yet. Steven wants the Diamonds to help him cure all the corrupted gems. But even with the 3 of them, they just can't do it. They need someone else. White Diamond. And up to this point in the show, we've barely even heard about White, let alone seen her. So the whole crew are now off to Homeworld one last time to talk to White Diamond. To make a long story short, it went poo-poo. A lot happens during this arc, but the basics are White attacks everyone and things get
really cool.
Every crystal gem is fighting off White's giant robot, and we even get to see a ton of new fusions. But White overpowers them and zaps the Diamonds and the gems, putting them under her control. Poo-poo. She grabs Steven and forcibly rips out his gem because she thinks it'll release Pink's original form. Instead, it releases this super powerful, otherworldly Pink version of Steven, which I guess is supposed to be like Steven's gem half or something. Meanwhile, Steven's gemless human half is left weak and powerless. And White's all like, where's Pink? But Gem Steven's just like, she's... And then the 2 Stevens walk up to each other, laugh, cry, hug each other a lot, and then they fuse together, it's animated really well, and Steven is back! What even just happened? And in that moment, well, on Homeworld they say, that White Diamond's heart grew 3 sizes that day. Seriously, White starts glowing pink, meaning she's now off color. She's not perfect like she wanted to be, but that's okay. And Steven's like, that's kinda what we've been saying for 5 seasons. And just like before, White's no longer a threat. The gems and the Diamonds all go back to Earth and cure all of the corrupted gems. Even Jasper. Oh, and Lars and the Off-Colors make it back to Earth too. All the gems are safe, the Diamonds learn the error of their ways, and everyone lived happily ever after. And that is the complete story of Steven Universe from beginning to end. This is legit my favorite cartoon ever, and I am so happy that it was given such a proper and satisfying ending. Wait. When we last left Steven and the gang, they had just made peace with Yellow, Blue, and White Diamond after going through the whole complicated rigmarole of Steven also being Rose Quartz, who was also Pink Diamond. They all came back to Earth to heal the corrupted gems, including Jasper, that one's important, and they all lived happily ever after. And I said all that at the end of my last recap. I didn't know that was going to be the theme of the movie. These days, the gems are living out their happily ever after by building a little place in the middle of Beach City for the now healed corrupted gems to live out their lives and learn about all the crap they missed. It's called Little Homeworld, and everyone is doing great. Though the Diamonds keep badgering Steven, the closest thing to Pink Diamond they have left, to move in with them on Big Homeworld. Obviously, Steven does not want to do that, but I'm sure that'll sort itself out eventually. But for now, we get to see our favorite main character gems finally able to relax after all these years. No more villains, no more wars, everyone can just chill. Okay. Giant drill full of pink goo just landed on the Earth. There's some weird new gem standing on top of it. This is Spinel. Calm down. Spinel is a very angry gem who we know nothing about. Steven's like, "Hi, I'm Steven. What's your name?" Whoa! Whoa! Her giant drill digs into the ground, and she immediately starts swinging at Steven and the gems with this crazy scythe thing called a rejuvenator. And Pearl's all like, "I cannot believe it is you, Spinel," who for the audience's information was... The gems are all poofed by Spinel's rejuvenator. Steven gets hit with it too, but it just kinda gives him the giblies for a bit, so he yoinks the scythe away from Spinel and poofs her with it. A reminder, poofing is not killing. Poofing is simply dissipating their physical form for a little while. Shattering is killing, but you know, that's not important right now. Eventually, all the gems start reforming, but they're acting odd. It's like they all reset to their factory defaults or something. Oh, that's why they call it a rejuvenator. Alright, that checks out. And before Steven can even hope to make sense of what's going on, Spinel comes back. But she's not the same angry, vengeful, spiky-haired gem we knew before. Now she's all happy, bubbly, and calls Steven her best friend. First she tries to kill him, now she's his best friend. I'd make a joke about that, but that's kinda just how Steven makes friends. And to make matters worse, the rejuvenator might not have poofed Steven, but now his powers aren't working. Man, how could this possibly get any worse? Oh crap, the drill. This giant syringe is injecting some kind of pink toxin into the world that's killing everything. So we're gonna have to deal with that at some point. But first, we gotta get the crystal gems back to normal. Several musical numbers later, Amethyst is back to normal, Ruby and Sapphire formed Garnet, but she doesn't really have her memories back, and Steven got Pearl back to normal by fusing with his dad, because that's apparently just something he can do now. But that also triggered something in Spinel that made her run away. Steven finds her at a warp pad, and they travel to this abandoned space garden. Apparently, this is where Spinel used to live as a playmate for Pink Diamond way back in the day. But once Pink was given her first colony, the Earth, she legit just abandoned Spinel, told her to stand perfectly still and wait for her as part of a game, and then just dipped, confirming my theory that Pink has been the real villain of this entire series. Holy crap, what a terrible person. Spinel waited in that garden for 6,000 years, never moving an inch. But after all the diamond drama went down and peace was restored, Steven sent out a message to the universe and Spinel learned the truth. Pink left her, started a new life, made new friends, and then disappeared forever. That's why Spinel randomly attacked the Earth. Revenge. Doesn't really explain where she got the injector though, but... Steven does what he does best and promises to help her if she helps him save the Earth. But Spinel starts questioning if he really wants to be her friend or if he's just lying to her like Pink so she'll turn off the injector. And when Steven accidentally drops the rejuvenator, Spinel's just like, "Oh no, nuh-uh, you ain't pulling a fast one on me." I don't know why Spinel sounds like John Mulaney, but alright. She turns on Steven and drills the injector back into the Earth. Oh, Garnet got her memories back, by the way. It leads to a cool musical number, but ultimately in the plot it just kinda happens. And now we have the final face-off between Steven and Spinel. Steven randomly gets his powers back through an anime-style epiphany like, "Oh, I just need to believe in my ability to change!" And he launches into an epic musical number. But Spinel isn't having any of that and says,
"Just can it, won't ya? You can't just make everything better by singing some stupid song!
which has weird implications. So apparently, in-universe, Steven is literally singing a completely original song that he's just pulled out of his butt while being mercilessly beaten up by Spinel. That just seems like a weird use of time right now. But I guess it does something, because eventually Spinel comes to a realization that Steven really was trying to help her, and she breaks down, wondering why she's even fighting. She starts crying, and then I start crying, and then everyone's crying, and But right as they stop fighting, the injector just goes Steven manages to save himself and Spinel from, you know, exploding and dying, but the town's still in pretty bad shape. Spinel's like, well, I've made a mess. I should probably be on my way out. She feels like she's already screwed up too much to be friends with Steven and wishes she could have a blank slate with someone else.
Here come the diamonds!
Yeah, blue, yellow, and white all come down to Earth at the worst possible time to be closer to Steven. But once they meet Spinel and hear about her story, they're like, yeah, dude, Earth sucks, but low-key, this pink gem's pretty dope. Is it chill if we, take her? Spinel's like, that'd be chill. They all leave for Homeworld, and Steven starts licking the dirt. Steven Universe Future. And this is where things start getting pretty crazy. By the way, if you're enjoying this recap so far, you can always head down below this video and click the subscribe button and hit the little notification bell next to it to make sure you don't miss any future recaps like this. I'd really appreciate the support. So what's going on now? Sometime after the events of the movie, the world is back to normal and the gems have created Little Homeschool to better teach the healed gems about their new life on Earth. Steven's kinda like the principal of the school, but he's clearly struggling. He's loaded down with responsibilities, he's dealing with gems who still hate him, and a bunch of his friends are starting to change or leave Beach City. And all this change and stress is causing some weird things to happen to Steven. Remember at the end of my last recap when White Diamond ripped Steven's gem out of him and it created this pink glowy Steven that was insanely strong and super scary? Well now, anytime Steven gets too worked up, too scared, too stressed, he starts glowing pink and gets all sorts of new powers. This is Steven's diamond half starting to shine through. He discovers this for the first time during a fight with Jasper in episode 1 and is like, wow, okay, that's weird. Jasper, you know anything about this? But Jasper's just like, get off my property! So over the next 5, 6, 7 episodes, this kind of crap just keeps happening and no one really does anything about it. But after one particular incident that nearly kills Steven and his friends at a Little Homeschool graduation, Steven decides the stress is becoming too much for him and he quits his job at Little Homeschool. But honestly, I think this just made everything worse. See, Steven has spent pretty much his whole life doing two things: helping others and avoiding death. People really like trying to kill this boy. But now, no one's really trying to kill him anymore, and all the people he was trying to help are better now. So Steven's kinda left feeling like he has no purpose. And when you're feeling lost, you can make very stupid decisions. And this is where Connie comes back into the picture. These days, it's kind of implied that Steven and Connie are maybe dating now, but they don't get to see each other a ton because Connie is super busy studying to lo-fi chill hip-hop beats. She's getting ready to enroll in an out-of-state college, and Steven's getting worried that the two of them will start to drift apart. Oh, that reminds me, I kind of forgot to mention in my last recap that Steven and Connie can fuse together to form Stevonnie. Stevonnie is definitely one of the most interesting characters in this show, but they don't show up super often, so unfortunately, they got a little lost in the shuffle last time. But as Steven's going through it, he realizes that when he's part of Stevonnie, he doesn't feel lost, which makes him even more worried about Connie moving away. And here's where the stupid comes in. Steven decides that at the age of 16 and right before Connie's about to start college, to propose to her in the hopes of getting married and going to college with her. This goes about as well as you'd expect. Steven is, of course, rejected in, honestly, a really polite and loving way. Connie doesn't say, "No way, freak," and then spit in his face or anything. She gives him a hug and says, it's not a no, it's a not now. And Steven takes it pretty well. Until he doesn't. And this is where things get pretty serious. Steven starts glowing again, but now he's also starting to swell up uncontrollably. He goes to the hospital and discovers that while he's healed physically from all of his dangerous adventures over the years, he never really healed mentally. Steven's been dealing with near-death experiences since he was a little kid, always in danger, someone always trying to kill him. And that childhood trauma is affecting the way his body handles stress. Every problem in Steven's life feels like the end of the world because that's all he's known. In the show's own words, his body is responding to minor threats as if his life were in danger. And with all this change in his life and his fears of being left behind looming over him constantly, his body's response to that stress is becoming more and more extreme. Unfortunately, things for Steven don't get much better after the hospital visit. He's still swelling, he still can't control his diamond powers, and he doesn't know what to do or how to keep his friends out of danger. So he runs away and finds Jasper to ask for help. Jasper convinces Steven that instead of trying to repress his anger and his powers, he should just let them out. So the two begin training, and as Steven learns more and more about his powers, he becomes not himself. Eventually, new buff Steven decides he's ready for a rematch against Jasper, but during their fight, he loses control again. He traps Jasper and attacks her with a giant wall of spikes, and Steven shattered her. Jasper's dead. Luckily, he's able to heal Jasper's gem and bring her back, but holy crap, I never would have dreamed this show would go there. This is still the Cheeseburger Backpack Show. The show that started with a rap about cat-shaped ice cream sandwiches. And the main character just killed someone! The newly healed Jasper bows to Steven and calls him her diamond, which really freaks Steven out, as if he weren't already freaking out enough. You know, from the manslaughter. Steven runs away to Homeworld to talk to the diamonds, but that doesn't really help. Though, for some levity, we do get to see Spinel again, which is nice. She seems to be doing well. She's animated like Sonic now for some reason, which I guess is a sign of growth. I'm glad she's doing better. Can we just focus on her for a bit? Because Steven's starting to fantasize about shattering White Diamond, and I'm very scared. Steven's friends give him an intervention where he breaks down and admits to all the dark thoughts he's had and to shattering Jasper. He calls himself a fraud and a monster, and suddenly his body just erupts, growing into an actual giant monster. So that's a thing we have to deal with now, but the gems don't really know what to do. He's too powerful to attack, too strong to restrain for long, and he won't listen to anyone. Lapis holds him back for a while, but he breaks free just in time for, of course, the cluster to come back, because the cluster will always come back, and for the diamonds to show up at the worst possible time, because the diamonds will always show up at the worst possible time. They start crying and blaming themselves as the cluster holds back Steven, but Connie's just like, yes, this is your fault, but now's not the time for pity parties, you narcissists. Connie realizes that for his entire life, Steven's been helping everyone with their problems and making them better people. But Steven never had that for himself. So, in the most Steven Universe move ever, instead of fighting, the gems, the diamonds, Greg, Connie, Lion, the cluster, they all tackle hug Steven. Even after he confessed to all the awful stuff he's bottled up, his friends and family are still there to show him love and support through everything he's going through. Steven finally stops, breaks into tears, and shrinks back down to his normal self. Whew! Okay! Oh my god! Cookie Cat! He's a pet for your tummy! Cookie Cat! Woo! Okay! Happy times! Good time show! Happy time, fun time, Steven! Woo! Several months later, Steven is doing a lot better. He's keeping up with his friends, he's finally seeing a therapist, Steven X Therapy confirmed, and he's decided it's time for him to move out. He goes around town, says his goodbyes, drives away, and with that, Steven Universe is officially over. And wow, what a freaking journey this show has been. I don't think I've ever seen a show grow, change, and defy expectations as much as Steven Universe. And the way they managed to totally flip the show on its head in this last season was absolutely incredible. Like, for real, anyone who worked on this series should feel so proud of what they created. Steven Universe is over, but it's never gonna be forgotten. Mainly because I'm gonna have nightmares about buff murder Steven for the rest of my freaking life. Jesus Christ! What's this? New Cartoon Network series, Steven Universe? Huh, yeah, right. I give it a season. I mean, it's not like I'm ever even gonna watch it. Nah, I'ma spend all my time on YouTube watching SourceFed. Now that's gonna last forever. Good luck, Stevie Planet or whatever you are. So, yeah. a few things have changed. Hey there, I'm Foafy, and I'm a Steven Universe fan. If you watch my videos, you already know this. It's not only my favorite cartoon, but probably my favorite TV show, period. And at this point, I've talked about the history of how the show was made, and I've even recapped the entire series plot with some stupid drawings. I've spent a lot of time thinking about this show. But believe it or not, I wasn't always on board the Steven Universe train. I honestly used to think this show was, well, we'll get to that in a minute as I bring you some confessions of a Steven Universe fan. My personal thoughts, opinions, and experiences with this show that so many love and so many hate. The good, the bad, and the oof. These are confessions of a Steven Universe fan. Not all Steven Universe fans, just the one, and that one is me. Hi. So let's start with one of the big ones. FootofaFerret used to be kind of a Steven Universe hater. I know, what a betrayal to my brand. But see, I wasn't really paying attention to cable TV back when the show premiered in 2013. I did catch some ads for the show from time to time, and I remember thinking, wow, that sure looks like Adventure Time. Yeah, back then, I thought the show just looked like Cartoon Network trying to recreate the success of Adventure Time. I mean, I saw a human kid surrounded by magical creatures, fighting monsters, singing ukulele songs, and just generally being kinda wacky and quirky, and to me, that all screamed Adventure Time ripoff. Of course, back then I didn't know the show's creator had worked on Adventure Time, or that Steven Universe had like 1,000 different things that set it apart from Adventure Time. But nah, make your entire judgment call based off a single commercial. That sounds good. And I mean, I guess I sorta get why I thought that, but it's definitely the kind of thing you say if you know absolutely nothing about Steven Universe. Which I didn't, so checks out. And for years, I just walked around with this opinion in my head. This baseline, bare bones, and pretty inaccurate view of Steven Universe that wasn't even based on the show. No, it was based on the commercials. And things weren't really helped when I caught this ad for the first Steven Universe DVD.
DVD! It's got 12 of my adventures! DVD! And a bonus special feature! DVD!
Yeah, if my interest in watching Steven Universe was at a 0 before, this commercial dropped it into the negatives.
Foafy Steven Universe fan potential is in the red, people!
Oh God, I just remembered I even tweeted something about Steven Universe back in like 2015. Steven Universe comes off to me as a show trying too hard to be like Adventure Time. Not saying that's bad though. Yeah, 2015 Foafy, way to make a totally stupid public statement on a show you've never even watched. Good going, I'm sure that'll age great. So yeah, for the first few years of Steven Universe's life, I was that annoying guy who never watched the show but blindly hated it based on stupid misconceptions. But then one day I was lazing around in a hotel, nothing was on TV, so I just stuck it on Cartoon Network. And it just so happened there was a Steven Universe marathon on, specifically a marathon of all the Gem Fusion episodes. Oh yeah, Gems and Steven Universe confuse. If you don't know the show, you wouldn't know that. But again, if you don't know the show, why are you watching a video about the show? That doesn't imply that it's gonna tell you what the show is. I don't know. I'm pretty sure the first episode of Steven Universe I ever saw was Cry for Help from Season 2. Let me tell you, man, that is a weird place to jump in. I didn't even know these characters' names yet, and now they're all Dragon Ball fusing to make new characters with different names, different voices, different powers. What is happening? Where are we? What's this tower thing? Why do they have a lion? Why is it pink? Who's this Peridot person they keep talking about? And why do I get the feeling she's not actually gonna be a threat? But then the episode after that was The Answer. Not the answer to the questions I had, but the actual episode called The Answer. The one that finally fully explored Garnet's backstory. And as a standalone episode, yeah, there were still some things I didn't get, but this story of two gems fusing by accident and suddenly having their world turned on its head, it stuck out to me. I didn't really think much of it at the time, but it planted a little seed in my head that said this show might be worth checking out more. Several months later, I finally decided to start delving into the world of modern cartoons. The ones I missed out on because I got all caught up on YouTube in 2010. I don't know, I had animation on the brain and thought it'd be cool to maybe do some videos about cartoons. And of all the shows I could have started this mega ultra multi-binge with, I chose Steven Universe. And I gotta be honest, early Steven Universe, it's a little rough. At least compared to what the show became. I mean, you can't just jump right out of the gate with toppling governments and singing about the death of a loved one. You gotta start things off easy, man, with a goofy episode about eating ice cream and rapping. About ice cream. Okay, let me put it like this. Gem Glow is not my first choice of episode when I'm introducing a friend to Steven Universe. And some of those season 1 drawings, man, those get wonky. Anyway, I kept binging the first season, and while I thought it was fine, I felt like I was missing something. What's so special about this show that's got everyone flipping out for it? But then I got to the episode So Many Birthdays. You know, the one where Steven begins rapidly aging and nearly dies of old age while the crystal gems just panic and cry. For the kids. Now this was the first time the show really made me sit up and go, oh, okay, this show ain't afraid to go there, all right. Not gonna lie, this episode was a little too real for what I was expecting, may have made it harder to get to sleep that night, but I was intrigued. And from there you had Ocean Gem, Alone Together, The Return, Jailbreak, all these super unique, more plot-driven episodes that really started to hook me onto the show. Now I was seeing what made Steven Universe so special. And then the whole Peridot redemption arc hit, and that's when I finally decided, okay, yes, I love this show. What do you know? The show I blindly disliked turned out to be really good once I actually watched it. Who would have guessed? So, you get it. I love Steven Universe. Duh. But even I'll admit this show is not perfect by any means. I'm not saying it's some untouchable piece of art with no faults. I think the art and animation is great, but it can be kinda inconsistent at times. Characters can change size and proportion episode to episode. The pacing's all over the place. The show takes a frustrating number of hiatuses, only to come back with a bunch of filler episodes. Ronaldo exists, and all of that is absolutely true and valid. But for the most part, none of it bothers me. Like, I'm not saying those aren't problems, and if you don't like the show for those reasons, then hey, I don't blame you. But for whatever reason, I don't mind. Well, except Ronaldo. We could kind of do without Ronaldo. Keep Beach City weird! I don't know. Maybe it's because I jumped into the show super late and already had a huge backlog of episodes ready to binge, or maybe it's just my love of beach towns, but the filler episodes never bothered me. I like Beach City, and most of the characters in it. Yeah, of course I want to get on with the main story, but I also enjoy just chilling out and watching Steven, you know, assassinate the mayor. Let me put it like this. I'm the guy who would reset The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker every time you left the first island because I like relaxing on the beach and not worrying about problems, and pirates are scary and giant birds are scary. Turn it off! But then there's Steven Universe, the movie. I've not talked about this much on the channel, but this movie was a huge deal to me because not only was it one of the best things the show had put out in years, but it created this moment where suddenly it felt like everyone was super into Steven Universe, even people who didn't like it before or had fallen off with it. And a lot of that was thanks to probably the best thing to happen to Steven Universe in years, Spinel. This new character, her story, her awesome rubber hose character design, and her incredible intro song really resonated with people, and she spread like wildfire. Fan art, song covers, and memes everywhere. This one new character elevated the movie to a level I never expected it to reach. My friends know I'm a Steven Universe guy. I don't do much to hide it. And after the movie came out, I got texts from 2 friends who I'd never heard talk about Steven Universe even once before, but both of them texted me on the same day just to be like, dude, the Steven Universe movie is so good. It was this brief moment where suddenly it felt like this show that's become so divisive over the years had this one thing that everyone came together and agreed was pretty cool. And I don't know, I thought that was really fun. Dare I say it was wholesome content. And at the end of the day, even with all the show's imperfections, that's really what keeps me coming back to Steven Universe. It's that wholesome mood the show has. Whenever an episode of Steven Universe starts, whether it's the biggest plot-driven fight the diamonds save the earth episode ever, or the 15th no-stakes filler episode about Sadie Killer and the suspects, once the episode gets going, I'm just like, yeah, I like this. I feel good watching this. And really, that's all that matters. That is until Steven Universe Future started, and now every episode I feel like I'm watching a close friend have a mental breakdown, and now I'm just very, very, very concerned. It's now been more than 100 days since Steven Universe ended. So, how we holding up? Yeah, that's what I thought. I mean, the entire world went into lockdown right after the show ended. That ought to tell you something. I myself have been great. You know, just great. totally fine. All good here. Yep. I mean, it's not like I dedicated months of my life to making videos about Steven Universe's history, plot, movies, epilogue series, and my own personal experiences with it. The show being gone is fine. Trust me, when you spend that many hundreds of hours editing stuff about a particular show, you get pretty attached. So yeah, with Steven Universe officially over, and with me having covered just about every bit of information about the show that I can, you might think, at this point, there's not much left to talk about. But that's where you're wrong. Kinda. This is FootofaFerret grasps at straws for things to talk about with Steven Universe, because if he can still make videos about it, then he doesn't have to confront the fact that it's actually over. So, here's the way this is gonna go down. I want to take a look at some Steven Universe related media that's not part of the main show, the movie, or the future series. So in case you just have no cable, streaming services, or access to TV in general, but for some reason still want to get into Steven Universe, or you're a fan desperately clinging to what few threads of your favorite show are left after the finale, we can see what your options are. And for me, when I think of experiencing cartoons outside of, well, the cartoons, my mind immediately goes to toys. I've always been a little salty that Steven Universe never got any full-fledged action figures like Adventure Time did. I love collecting figurines, but for Steven, the pickings have been kinda slim. Mostly, you had these blind box toys, which were cute and fun to collect, and my 3 identical Paradots prove just how much of a sucker I am. I'll give money to anything, but what I really want to talk about here are the freaking Funko Pop vinyls. Oh lord. Now, I'm not a huge Funko Pop guy, but I do pick some up every now and then if it's from a series I like that doesn't have many figures otherwise. So back when I first got into Steven Universe, I picked up a handful of these Pops and oh, it's a mixed bag, let me tell you, buddy. I mean, Garnet here, not gonna lie, she looks great. Mainly because her visor covers up those dead, soulless Funko eyes. Steven and Amethyst are okay, but oh my god, Pearl! This nightmarish beast that the Funko Company attempted to pass off as Pearl is just about the biggest cartoon-to-toy downgrade I've ever seen. She looks like a Muppet, and not one of the cute ones, like one of the weird ones that freaked you out as a kid. Honestly, I think the worst part is her tiny, weirdly positioned, always smiling mouth. It looks like her mouth is on her chin. Also, no Steven Universe character's mouth has ever looked like that. Ever. I guess I kinda hate it a lot. So maybe toys aren't the way to go for my Steven Universe fix. Yeah, how about music? Yeah, that could work. I mean, one of Steven Universe's biggest trademarks is its music after all. And lucky for us, Steven Universe has like 5 albums. You got 2 albums of the songs, 2 albums of the score, and the movie soundtrack, which is the clear winner of the bunch if you ask me. I mean, the show had a lot of great songs, but the movie hit a new level. Any album with Happily Ever After, Other Friends, and the incredible score on it is clearly gonna beat out the competition. I do want to shout out the Steven Universe Soundtrack Volume 1 though for this dope vinyl record collection. This thing is just stupid cool. The art is amazing, each record is themed after one of the main characters, it's just an incredible package all around. But then, you look at the actual track list. Now don't get me wrong, a lot of these songs are absolute classics. The main theme song, Giant Woman, Be Wherever You Are, Here Comes a Thought, the entirety of Mr. Greg, but there's also a lot of songs on here that either do nothing for me, or that I'm just not a fan of on their own. Honestly, I think early Steven Universe music was a little too Greg heavy? Okay, maybe a lot too Greg heavy. And then, in the later seasons, we got Sadie Killer and the Suspects, which just wasn't my thing. Steven Universe has some of the best songs in any cartoon, period. But for me personally, I can't really listen to these albums without hitting skip quite a few times. And as a result, I don't really listen to the show's music on its own that often. But we're getting close. We are getting closer. I am starting to feel that Steven Universe vibe again, so maybe now let's try something a little more visual. How about oh, what are those things called again? Those, like, word folders that we used to have in school. Books. Yeah, turns out there's a number of Steven Universe books out there. I'm sure if you're a fan, you're already aware of the wealth of Steven Universe comic books. And I mean, it makes a lot of sense. A series of comic books is probably the closest thing you're gonna get to having new episodes of Steven Universe to experience outside of the show. Seems right up my alley, doesn't it? So naturally, I've never read a single one of them. Oops. Okay, hear me out. I'm sure the Steven Universe comics are really great, but that whole world of comic books is something I've never really paid that much attention to. Who knows? Maybe one day I'll buy up all the Steven Universe comics I can find and get back to you guys on that, but for now, I want to take a look at a Steven Universe book that I do have, Steven Universe Guide to the Crystal Gems by the Rebecca Sugar. Holy crap. This is a kid's book from 2015, and it's just so innocent, man. I mean, just knowing all the dark and intense places the show went by the end, going back to this kid's picture book that only had the first season to work off of, it's a trip. And I know for a fact that if I were a kid when Steven Universe was a new thing, I would have loved this book. The book is essentially a way for kids to experience the show's characters, world, tone, and funnier moments while, I don't know, at school, out by the docks. I don't know what kids do these days.
Apparently it's called a reference book.
And when I was a kid, I had a very similar SpongeBob book that I loved called Life's a Beach, where every page was just a collection of images and quotes. So even though I obviously never grew up with this book, I'm not a freaking time traveler, it does give me some nostalgic vibes. It's actually narrated by Steven. And I mean season 1 Steven, so you got sentences like,
Amethyst is a crazy good fighter. She can turn into a big wrestler and roll super fast into things like a big tire, and she can grab things and throw things and even cut things with her whip.
I get that this is on purpose, but there is an astonishing number of run-on sentences in this thing. It's almost like one of my videos.
That is a long sentence. From the beginning, that was one sentence. You're insane.
But the thing that confuses me is, who is this book for? Like, okay, I get that obviously it's for kids who watch the show, but the premise of the book is to teach you all the stuff that, if you watch the show, you'd already know. Like, you learn that Steven is half gem, half human, you learn about the Gem War, you learn about each of the crystal gems and the homeworld gems, trading card stats and all. There's even a whole section dedicated to the fusions. Favorite Opal quote: all you want to do is see me turn into a giant woman. I'm pretty sure that's the only Opal quote. But yeah, all of this stuff the book is trying to introduce you to is stuff that any of the kids watching the show enough to want this book would already know. Plus, the book really assumes you've watched all of season 1, because it mentions Jasper, Peridot, and Lapis throughout the entire thing with zero context until like 75 pages in. Like, imagine it's 2015 and you're getting into the show, you haven't seen all of it, but you're really enjoying it so far. And then you just happen to crack open this book and read, Garnet kept up with Lapis Lazuli's water clones. Yeah, who the heck is Lapis Lazuli? Oh, that's who she is. Good thing it took 75 pages to get to that information. Heck, they outright spoil the Garnet fusion twist and the Stevani fusion. Connie is barely even mentioned in the book once before that, and that's the second to last page. So, it's a book meant to teach you about Steven Universe's characters, plot, and concepts, but it's written in a way that assumes you already know everything about Steven Universe's characters, plot, and concepts. Am I the only one who thinks that's confusing? Like, my old SpongeBob book was kinda similar, but it was basically just a quote book. It wasn't telling me who SpongeBob is or anything. I know who SpongeBob is!
I already bought the book! Do I look like I don't know who SpongeBob is?
But yeah, the book's okay. It's definitely for a younger audience, and really outdated. I mean, remember when Peridot was a threat? But it gets across the vibe of the show, and even reinforces the show's lessons about relationships pretty well. And there was something kind of fun and charming about unearthing this weird relic from a simpler time in the show's history. And like I said, this is something I would have loved as a kid. So not only am I starting to feel those Steven Universe vibes again, I'm even feeling a little nostalgic. But I think there's one more level deeper we can go. Something a little more interactive. That's right, let's talk Steven Universe in video games. And there are a handful of options out there when it comes to Steven Universe games. Most of them are pretty simple Flash games on the Cartoon Network site. You know, Doodle Jump clones, racing, volleyball, and other really simple browser games. But man, browser gaming is so 2003. It's all about the mobile gaming these days, brah. Sorry, I won't do that again. And there's actually a pretty dang decent Steven Universe game on the App Store called Steven Universe Attack the Light. It's a basic turn-based RPG game, sort of like a bare-bones Paper Mario. You play as Steven in the Crystal Gems, you go around fighting monsters, and that's it. Yeah, it's pretty standard. But I actually played through the whole thing a couple years ago and had a lot of fun with it. But that game was just the springboard for something bigger. Something that is pretty much the reason I wanted to make this weird video in the first place. The sequel, Steven Universe Save the Light. I've always thought this was really cool. Save the Light is another pretty simple RPG, but this time it's a full-fledged console game for all the boxes. You can play as Steven, the Gems, Peridot, Connie, and Greg. There's an original story with new characters, and even a fully explorable beach city. This might sound dumb, but it really does feel like you're playing through an episode of the show sometimes. Some of you might remember in my very first Steven Universe video from 2017, I had a little mini freak out over how cool I thought this game looked. I was riding high on having just gotten into the series at that point, so I was hyped. And while it's definitely not the most original, exciting, or polished game in the world, I mean, even while recording footage for this video, a cutscene glitched out, I got stuck, and had to restart. That's not the best thing in the world, but at the end of the day, I mean, it's Steven Universe Paper Mario, and I have fun with it. Also, it's often bundled with the equally cute OKKO game that I also really like. So if you, like me, have had a Steven Universe-shaped hole in your heart for the last few months, and want to experience some Steven Universe Extended Universe stuff, this is probably my favorite way to do it. Oh, also, apparently there's a third Steven RPG on the App Store called Unleash the Light, but for some reason the App Store hides it behind a subscription service, and I think that's dumb, so I haven't played it. But you know, maybe all this isn't helping. All this extra Steven Universe stuff is fun, but maybe it's better to just face the facts that the show is over, and that's okay. Or, hear me out. Steven Universe Recap 3, all the filler. I mean it, every Beach City episode, every Sadie Killer and the Suspects thing, everything. I'll even make a video about the Ronaldo episodes. Come on, I'm desperate here. Yeah, shut up. It's been nearly 3 years now, and I'm still here making videos about Steven Universe. A cartoon that's been over since March of 2020. Don't judge me. It makes me happy. And I know I've been doing the whole pretending it's not over, living in denial thing for a while. Heck, I even made a whole merch collection around it. But at this point, really, it's mostly just nostalgic. I got into Steven Universe way back in 2017, almost 6 years ago. So this is more of a nostalgia trip than anything. Or at least, that's what I'm telling myself. So once again, let's take a look at a bunch of random Steven Universe junk to fill the void. Feel some nostalgia. And we got a fun one to start out. Did you guys know that there are Steven Universe trading cards? Or, I guess, there were. We'll get to that. But yeah, these are real. This is the Steven Universe trading card set released in 2019 from a company called Cryptozoic. I opened a ton of boxes of these last year, and they're really fun. Each pack has a bunch of different types of cards in them. Yeah, mostly screenshots from the show. You know, fun, wholesome moments like Steven on trial for murder, Bismuth about to kill child, this face, and Amethyst breaking down crying because she never asked to be made. I feel like you shouldn't make a trading card out of that. But there are some fancier ones, like these character cards, these ones shaped like vinyl records, and the big chase cards of the set, sketch and autograph cards. These are cards that are either signed by various voice actors from the show, or feature one-of-a-kind hand-drawn art done directly onto the card. These are so incredibly cool. Check it out. These are the ones that I've been able to collect over the years. There's Steven on the beach, Yellow Diamond looking like Goku, this amazing Stevani one, and oh dear. I really love these, man. I'm a sucker for trading cards. This is just perfect. In fact, I actually opened up a box of them when I launched my second channel, Foafy, last summer. Yeah, I didn't think much of it at the time, but then the video somehow got 700,000 views. Yeah, okay. Cool! Yeah, I don't normally bring up how my videos perform or anything, and I'm not trying to brag here. I only mention this because after that video went up and did as well as it did, Steven Universe trading cards sold out. Like, everywhere. Any place that I knew that sold these cards were sold out within a week of my video going up. Not gonna lie, that freaked me out a little bit. This new channel had just launched and I was already seeing its power. But what's worse is that with them sold out, I can't really recommend them for pretending Steven Universe isn't over, because they're all dead now. But luckily, Cryptozoic themselves stepped in with a solution, which is why they are sponsoring today's video, so I can tell you guys about Steven Universe Beachapalooza, a card battling game made by Cryptozoic based around that episode where Steven watches hundreds of copies of himself die all at once. Oh, and they form a band or something. If you haven't seen that episode, this might not make total sense, but you, and up to 5 friends, each become a Steven and start forming your own bands to perform in Beach City's annual music festival, Beachapalooza, all while fighting off corrupted gems, homeworld gems, and other threats. It comes with all these cool decks of different Steven cards, actual physical gems made from delicious plastic. Don't eat them. And this adorable Cookie Cat scoreboard. It's just a really fun package. And a little behind the scenes here, usually when you get sponsored by something, there's a chance that they'll send you the product that you're going to be talking about. And Cryptozoic did just that. They sent me a copy of Beachapalooza to talk about for the video. But, they sent 6 copies? They just sent a case. Yes, Cryptozoic sent me a copy of this game and up to 5 friends. And I didn't tell them this, but I had already bought a copy for myself, so now I have 7? I mean, thank you. That's very generous. Now I can build my shrine. But anyway, if you want to try Beachapalooza for yourself, you can find the game for sale on Cryptozoic's website linked at the very top of this video's description. And it is an affiliate link, so if you do decide to pick up the game through my link, I do get a little extra kickback from it, so you're supporting the channel in the process. There are limited quantities though, so you might want to act fast. It is a Cryptozoic site exclusive, but if you're international, you can grab a copy from their eBay page. So again, check out the Steven Universe Beachapalooza card battling game at the top link in the description. Major thanks to Cryptozoic for sponsoring today's video, and now, let's look at some other Steven stuff. So we've seen the cards, but what if we took those cards, put a bunch of them in a row, stapled them together, and gave them words? It's books. I'm talking about books. Last time I fell down this deep, dark denial ditch, I did check out, one Steven Universe book. One? What, really? Wasn't even that exciting of a book. I got 4 minutes out of that? Jeez. Well, one thing I wasn't able to cover was the wealth of Steven Universe comics, because I didn't have any. So I bought some. Then I lost them in a move, so I bought some more. Now I will talk about them. And from what I've seen in my previous videos, these cartoon comic book adaptations are usually pretty dang good. I'm talking like prime pretending it's not over material. So I'm pretty optimistic here. This one's about Sadie and donuts. Yeah, don't expect a ton of deep lore here. Steven Universe Ultimate Dodown is a story about Sadie dealing with the whole thing where her crush died and then got revived by Steven and is now traveling through outer space with a team of aliens, but it's also about the crystal gems selling donuts, so, that's fun. This one's about Steven going to school with Connie, and they fight a snail. And this last one's about, well, it's not really about anything. It's more a collection of shorter comics. You know how Steven Universe stories kind of run the gambit between like stopping alien dictators and the Fry Kid doesn't want to wear the costume? And these stories are kind of like in the middle. We're still following Steven and the Crystal Gems and the main cast, but nothing's really happening. But they're still really fun, well-drawn, and well-written stories. And features the most screen time Sugalite's ever gotten. Ever. Genuinely, these were all really great. As expected, it felt like a bunch of lost episodes of Steven Universe that just don't move. And there are so many more of these comics, so if you miss Steven Universe, these are an absolute no-brainer. Moving on, toys. Now, I did check out some Steven Universe toys last time, but mostly just the Funko Pop vinyl figures, and it did not go well. We don't talk about Funko Pop Pearl. But this time around, I thought we'd take a look at an often overlooked category of toy, mystery box toys. The ones you see cluttering up the GameStop checkout lane, and you look at them and you're quietly wondering who's actually out here buying little cartoon figures of The Walking Dead, The Office, and groceries. But yeah, back in the day, there were actually a number of different sets of these toys, all based around Steven Universe. And to be honest, these are probably the better option anyway. I mean, they're kinda like Funko Pops, except they're smaller, cuter, more fun, and won't cost $60 on eBay. So check it out. I got a ton of different Steven Universe mystery toys to look at today, and it only cost $60 on eBay. I don't think I'm doing this right. I did a full video opening a bunch of these toys on my second channel, Foafy, but to make a long story short, I love this junk. It's all the fun of opening the trading cards, but you get a cool little toy for your desk instead of a cardboard slab that you're gonna stick in a box in the attic forever. There were 3 different series of toys I looked at. Steven Universe backpack hangers, Steven Universe minis, and the completely unrelated Steven Universe mystery minis by Funko? Oh, so they can make good Steven Universe toys, they just chose not to. Oh, it's okay. I mean, sure, they completely botched the Steven Universe toys in their premier line of figures, but at least they made up for it with the little toys that most people skip over while they're looking for Nerds Rope. Ugh. I really shouldn't get this worked up over discontinued cartoon toys. But yeah, these Funko Mystery Minis are actually really nice. They don't really look like the characters from the show as much as they look like, I don't know, emoji versions of them. I mean, you can see what I'm talking about. It's something like that. But they're cute and they don't peer into my nightmares, so it's an improvement already. I bought a ton of these back in the day. Look at all this worthless plastic. The planet is dying. The other series of toys are pretty fun too. These other Steven Universe minis are really similar to the Funko ones, except they're a lot smaller and come with these little plastic stands, which you definitely need, or else... Yeah, actually, maybe you don't need them. This is kind of fun. But surprisingly enough, my favorites are actually the backpack hangers. I had zero idea what to expect from these, besides the backpack hangy part. I don't really like keychains or clips, and the bags they came in just showed a bunch of generic art from the show. But when I opened the first one and got this Garnet toy, I was insanely impressed. Believe it or not, these are the first Steven Universe toys I've ever seen that are actually show accurate. No giant heads, tiny bodies, beady eyes, or emoji faces. These are just the characters from the show, albeit with one or two shortcomings. I really thought I'd make it through this segment without another nightmare stare. But for real, I really like these. In fact, I might need to look into getting some more, because apparently there's a secret one. I must know the secret. And there's tons more I could talk about with Steven Universe toys. I found these off-brand Steven Universe Lego sets that I've just been dying to build. Oh, and remember that cool collection box of Gravity Falls dome figures from the Pretending Gravity Falls Isn't Over video? Yeah, I found a box just like that, but for Steven Universe. Got this little cookie cat window you can see the toys through. It's really cool. And personally, these are all absolutely perfect for Pretending Steven Universe Isn't Over, TM, because they not only remind me of the show, but they also take me back to that time in like 2017 when I was first getting into Steven Universe, and I'd pick these up at Best Buy or GameStop all the time. So these get my 100% seal of approval. Too bad you can't get them anywhere anymore. There's tons of Pretending It's Not Over options if you want to go the toy route. You're just gonna have to do some eBay searching first. Here's a quick one: video games. I've already made dedicated videos on just about all of these, so we're gonna do this lightning round style. The Steven Universe Light RPG trilogy: Attack the Light, Save the Light, and Unleash the Light. Really good, super faithful games with awesome art and voice acting from the actual cast of the show. The best one is Save the Light. Multiverses, that Super Smash Bros. Clone from last year. You can finally make Garnet punch Steven in the face. It's a good time. The Minecraft Steven Universe mashup pack. Just adorable. It turns everything in Minecraft into Steven Universe stuff. Even the map turns into a full recreation of Beach City. Too bad I suck at Minecraft. Might have to hop back into that at some point. And lastly, Cartoon Network Battle Crashers. A side-scrolling beat-em-up where you can play as Steven along with a bunch of other Cartoon Network characters, and it's real bad. It's just not good. It's just really not good. And with that, I think I've exhausted most of my Steven Universe stuff. I talked about basically all the games, toys, cards, a bunch of the books. What else is there? Oh, right, there's a show. There's like a whole show that I can watch if I miss Steven Universe. Steven Universe. Wait, has it happened? Has it finally happened? Have I finally exhausted all possible options so that my only way to pretend Steven Universe isn't over is to just talk about the actual show? Well, I guess it has, so to round out this video, let's take a look at this. The Steven Universe Complete Collection box set. I'm talking all 5 seasons of Steven Universe, plus the movie, plus Steven Universe Future, plus bonus features, all on... DVD. You know, DVD, that video disc format that's literally as old as me. I'm 27, by the way. The video format that doesn't do HD. The video format that most stores can barely sell in the bargain bins now. Yeah, man, I don't know what it is, but Cartoon Network just seems absolutely determined to never release anything on Blu-ray or any HD format, at least not in North America. This show was made in HD. It streams in HD, but if you want it on home video, because any show can get yoinked from these streaming services at any time, we learned that by now, all you get is SD. Stupid definition. Every Steven Universe home video release in North America has been DVD. The Big Adventure Time box set? DVD. Over the Garden Wall? DVD. OKKO? DVD, and it's not even the complete series. And this wouldn't bug me as much if Disney hadn't shown everyone up by releasing an amazing Gravity Falls Blu-ray set. I guess that's what that Disney money gets you. You slightly less obsolete circle. Like, I get it, I guess. Most people just stream shows now, especially people in Cartoon Network's target demographic. I'm not saying it's a deal breaker or anything. I mean, I bought it, but I wanted to bring it up because A, it's been bothering me for years, and B, it's honestly the only major downside to this box set. Really, this thing is amazing. The whole outside slip has this shiny holographic sheen over some gorgeous artwork of Beach City. The DVD set actually slides out like this, and it's a book. Each disc gets its own page with some more of that adorable storybook art, and it really covers everything. I will say, as cute as it is, getting the DVDs in and out of each of these pages is not the easiest. I really feel like I'm scuffing them up every time I take them out, but I kinda get the feeling Cartoon Network expected most people to just buy this to look at, and not to actually watch. But overall, if you miss Steven Universe, this collection really does bring up that nostalgia, with all the art covering major events from every single season and just overall nailing the vibe. Oh, and I guess you can like watch the show on it or something. Whatever. You ever just totally embarrass yourself on the internet? It's fun, right? Back in 2019, I uploaded a video called Playing Minecraft for the first time, and I embarrassed myself, dude. I went in completely blind with no research beforehand, and the comments were very quick to point out just how many things I was doing wrong. And I haven't played Minecraft since. Not because I didn't enjoy it or anything, just because, you know, Animal Crossing came out, and then that took over my life for a while, and I got distracted playing with matches or something, I don't know. But I've been thinking for a while now that I really wanted to hop back into Minecraft for another go. You know, first time playing Minecraft, take two. So, I'ma do that. Now, all you Minecraft veterans out there are probably still gonna cringe at this video because yes, I am still playing on console. Yes, I am still going in mostly blind, but this time I wanna actually figure this crap out for myself instead of just goofing around. Don't get me wrong, I'm still definitely gonna goof around, but I wanna actually accomplish some things this time. And to help me out here, I decided to give myself a bit of a home field advantage. So today, I'll be playing Minecraft using the Steven Universe Mashup Pack. It adds a bunch of recognizable characters and locations from the show, just kinda gives everything a Steven Universe skin. I have no idea how this will affect the experience, I just wanted to do it. So without further me stalling, these are Foafy's adventures in Minecraft. So I load up the game, select the Steven Universe pack, hit create world, and oh, oh my god, look at this, I'm in the house, you know, from the show. Look at this place. They got the kitchen, here's the portal, amethyst room full of garbage, oh my god. Oh, the room with all the bubble gems. Oh my god, they even got the TV that's always broken. This is so freaking cool. So yeah, I was geeking out a bit, but after a couple of minutes, I calmed down and started regaining my bearings. I know it's been almost 2 years since I last played this game, but I do remember a few things. I know I gotta gather materials to craft stuff that'll help me survive. And at the moment, I have nothing. I hopped outside of my home base, forgot Minecraft has falling damage, and surveyed my surroundings. I see sand. Just lots of sand. Ooh, crab! I see crab! I kill crab! And here's where I started to realize maybe using the Steven Universe theme was a bad idea. I mean, yeah, it's cool, but now I'm thinking about this like Steven Universe. And if I existed in that world and was just walking around heartlessly killing crabs, I would be the villain. But this is Minecraft. I have to kill animals to get food so I won't die. I didn't feel bad about it in normal Minecraft, but I feel really bad about it now. And I felt even worse when I saw the other animals in this mashup pack. They made them all watermelon animals. They're too cute. And I feel absolutely terrible killing them and taking their meat for my own survival. Wait, meat? They turned all the animals into watermelon, but they still give you meat? We're living in a simulation. So I kill every animal I can find to line my pockets with gross, slimy, raw meat, and then it's time to start mining. Break dirt, punch rocks, slap trees, get garbage. Mining. But you know what the most fun part is about destroying the local ecosystem? Dying! I forgot just how many things in Minecraft are out to get you. Creepers, zombies, endermen, skeletons, spiders, the animals I've been killing, it just never ends. And now with this Steven Universe skin, it can kind of be harder to tell who is and isn't friendly. Like centipedals, injector drill creepers, and gem mutant zombies, those are obvious. But then I was walking around and found Squaredot here. They didn't attack me immediately, they seemed calm, so I assumed they were chill. But then suddenly they pulled out some kind of evil potion that exploded at me, and then I died. And I lost all my stuff. Off a cliff. Minecraft! All right, I respawned, we're back at it, we're doing okay, and oh, Hello, Hollow Pearl. You gonna be cool? You gonna— oh, go, okay, never mind. Oh, what is happening? Okay, running away. Guys, I think I suck at Minecraft. Seriously, I've been exploring all around to find the stuff I need to make like weapons and equipment, but I just keep dying before I can make any progress. I'm also just totally lost. Okay, I'm not lost. I know where everything is. I spawned at the beach, which is right next to the city. Peridot and Lapis's barn is over there. The kindergarten's right behind it. The hospital from that Gem Mutant episode is right next to the motel from the Ruby and Sapphire episode, which is right next to the amusement park from the Shorty Squad episode, which is right behind Beach City. I got the lay of the land down pretty well. I'm more lost objectively. I don't know what to do. This is where my Animal Crossing bias is showing a bit. See, when I started playing Animal Crossing New Horizons last year, I was also gathering materials to build things to survive on an island just like I am right now. But the difference is, Animal Crossing has characters, people who give you tasks and goals to accomplish, or even just people to talk to for fun. Minecraft, on the other hand, is turning out to be a very lonely experience. I haven't seen a single other character from Steven Universe around. At least, not one that wasn't trying to kill me. Honestly, it kind of feels like I'm exploring a post-apocalyptic beach city. All the characters you know and love are gone, every building is abandoned, and the town is crawling with the undead. That's definitely not the fun, blocky Steven Universe adventure I was expecting. Well, if this is how it's gonna be, then I'm just gonna embrace it. It's time to get serious. We are in pure survival mode now. So first, we need a home base. I make a crafting table, throw together some wooden tools, find a nice hillside made of dirt and stone, and start carving out a place to stay. Now I just need a bed, a chest, and a furnace. So I do what any seasoned survivalist would do. I walk 5 feet over to an abandoned, fully furnished 2-story house and steal all their stuff. Well, I get the feeling I'm making this harder than it needs to be. It's probably nothing. So, welcome to the Foafy Diamond Sword Home Base 1.0. Here's my front door. I stole it. Here's my bed. I stole it. Here's my storage chest. I stole it. Here's my furnace. I stole it. Here's my enchantment table. I stole it. And here's my crafting table. I made this myself. You could say I'm a bit of a Minecraft expert. So I craft up some stone equipment because the wooden ones are poopy, I sleep, and then I wake up the next morning ready for adventure. I think I'll start by paying a visit to the beta kindergarten. If you're more of a Minecraft person than a Steven Universe person, a kindergarten is a place on Earth where gems are created and burst out of the ground. So this place must have a ton of cool materials to find. I started walking around, honestly wasn't finding a whole lot when I had to pause the game for a minute. And this was when I learned you can't actually pause Minecraft. Okay, maybe the kindergarten was a bad idea. Why don't we head over to the beach instead? Back where we started this whole thing. Yeah, nice walk on the beach, surrounded by monsters, good times. But then I remembered, I can swim. I've been on just one island this entire time. There's an endless world of Steven Universe themed Minecraft junk out there. Why don't I go see it? So I dive headfirst into the ocean and oh my god, really? They turned the drown into malachite? I mean, yeah, I won't spoil it here, but I guess if you know the show, it makes sense. It's just weird to see such a heavy plot point boiled down to this. Pretty sure there's only supposed to be one of them. Anyway, I'm in the ocean now, which means it's time to press A over and over again until I find more land. Once there, I hop out, run around, kill more animals, and eventually... Fryman! Okay, this is new. We actually found someone who doesn't want to kill us. Not sure why he's all the way out here when his fry shop is sitting abandoned in Beach City. I guess the apocalypse drove him into hiding or something. But hey, we found our first actual Steven Universe character. What do you gotta say today, Fryman? Cool. After hanging out with my new friend for a bit, it started getting dark out. I didn't want to get swarmed by monsters, so I hopped back into the ocean, started swimming back to the main island, and shockingly didn't die. It's looking like progress to me. And man, whether you like Steven Universe or not, you gotta admit, swimming up to an island and seeing this in the distance is pretty cool. Actually, wait, what's that just off to the side there? Ooh, oh crap, we got a cave. I make note of that, head back home, grab all the equipment I need, and I jump right into action. And it was only as I started exploring this dark, mysterious cave that I realized I'd never learned how to make torches. That's not a great start. But I'm in it now. I'm sure it won't be that bad. Dang it. Dang it. Dang it! We're having a good bad time! I've only lost most of my equipment and will to keep going. But after dying about 5 or 6 times, I finally escaped the never-ending horde of enemies, hopped onto the side of this hill, and just started digging. And eventually, I break into some random room. Huh, that wasn't what I expected. Guess I'll see what's around and Slime! 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 As you can see, I had everything under control. But where am I? Well, apparently, between all the dying I was doing back in the cave, I completely missed this giant tower castle sitting on top of the hill I was climbing. Really not sure how that slipped by me. And I guess I just happened to break into the slime bombardment room, but I'm here now, and I'm not being attacked anymore, so I decided to take a look around. This place is massive, dude. And the confusing thing is, I don't recognize it at all. Every place I've been since the start of this game has been from Steven Universe. I could tell immediately. But I really have no idea if this is supposed to be anything from the show. I don't know, maybe I'm just missing something, or... Oh. Hello, Lapis. Something tells me you're not the real Lapis. You don't exactly look happy. Are you gonna... Oh, okay, yep, bad time. Can't trust anyone. Oh, God, what is this ice garnet? Why do all the enemies look like friends? I feel like I'm not supposed to attack them, but then they attack me, so I kill them, and then I feel bad. So with that trauma now on my back, I keep working my way through the tower. I fought some enemies, found a bunch of soup laying around, and after lots and lots and lots of climbing, I finally make it to the top. And there's nothing here. Well, I think I'm just about done with Minecraft for the day. All jokes aside, I am out of time for this video, but I'm having a lot of fun with this game. The exploration is exciting, I love finding secrets, I'm getting at least a little better at the combat, and I think having the Steven Universe map really did help ease me into things. At this point, I know Beach City like the back of my hand thanks to other Steven Universe games, so it actually did help me kind of get my bearings. I know I still have a lot to learn and even more to explore in this game. Definitely let me know if you want to see more Minecraft in the future. But for now, I'm pretty happy with the progress I've made. So how do I get down? Steven Universe is dead, okay? It's been 1.5 years, the show's over, it's not coming back, it's dead. And as much as I hate it, I just have to deal with it. But while the show might have ended like 3 different times, there's one thing in the world of Steven Universe I still need some closure on: the video game. Yeah, there's a Steven Universe video game. Steven Universe Save the Light. I've talked about it a couple times before. It's an RPG in the same vein as like Paper Mario. It came out back in 2017 and I was so hyped for it. I got it, I played it, I really enjoyed it, but I never finished it. Yeah, if you can't tell, I'm not that great at finishing games. Might be why I've been playing a lot of games that don't have endings lately. But today, I say no more! 4 years later, I am gonna sit down and play this dang game from start to finish. And you guys have to experience all of it recap style. But first, I gotta say, if you enjoy my videos and want to see more, be sure to hit the big red subscribe button right below this video and ring the little gray bell next to it. That'll send you notifications every time I upload, so you'll never miss a future video. Also, you like this shirt? You like this shirt I'm wearing? Well, it and a bunch of other cool FootofaFerret stuff is available for sale at my merch store, which is linked right in the description below. Oh, and before we get into the recap, I should mention this game takes place like right in the middle of the original show, kinda around seasons 3 and 4, so there will be show spoilers ahead. And if you need a refresher on anything Steven Universe, I got a whole other recap for that. And last, just to be clear, this video is not sponsored. I've just wanted to do a video on this game for years. And with all that said, this is Steven Universe Save the Light. So, fun fact, this game is actually a sequel to the mobile game Steven Universe Attack the Light. I played it, it's fun. The story didn't really warrant its own video, but it's where the plot of Save the Light actually starts. So, one day, Steven is just sitting around playing an RPG on his iPad. Get it? When Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl show up, having just returned from a mission, and they brought back this cool little pyramid of light thing with them. This is a prism. It's an old school gem weapon that, in the right hands, can be used to create an army of monsters made entirely of light. And Steven hears that and is just like, cool, yoink! This giant light monster shoots out of the prism and then breaks into a ton of smaller monsters who scatter all across the Earth. A whole game's worth of stuff happens, and the gems face off against the final big boss light monster. But we know Steven Universe never ends with just a fight. Nah, Steven starts trying to talk to and reason with the monster. He does his normal routine, you know, you don't have to fight, you don't have to be a weapon, you can be whoever you want to be. Of course it works, and the light monster then transforms into Steven. I don't think they understood the message. But that's the end of Attack the Light and the start of Save the Light. Steven takes Light Steven back to Beach City and shows him to Connie, who's like, whoa, that's pretty cool. Hey, what's that in the sky? Okay, this giant prism ship comes down to Earth, conveniently landing right on top of Greg's car wash, and out pops this ominous yellow gem. This is Hessenite, the original owner of the prism. And she's like, that's mine? Keep your hands off my stuff, stinky. Ugh, you got it all messed up. She takes back the prism and sends a whole new wave of light monsters out into the world. And with that, the game is on. Steven, Connie, and Steven's dad, Greg, set out to fight light monsters, find the crystal gems, figure out what the heck is going on, and try to save the prism and light Steven. And gameplay-wise, it means I get to run around a fully 3D beach city and fight monsters. This video is not a review, but I will explain the gameplay real quick. Every battle in the game is turn-based, but only kinda. Each attack costs star points. Once you're out, you can't do anything. But they replenish slowly over time, and the enemies just kinda attack when they feel like it. It's a pretty fun setup, and I've always really enjoyed this opening part of the game. There's all these cool details you can find, like, look, I found Animal Crossing. You can find Steven's lion chilling on this hill doing absolutely nothing, and... uh-oh. Oh no. Oh no. Yeah, I should probably mention this game can be a little glitchy at times. Oh, Connie? You good, Connie? You don't look like you're okay. Eventually, after making their way around town, the gang finds Garnet on the beach. She says she saw a big spaceship fly over the forest nearby, so they all go check it out. More battles and puzzle solving ensues before... oh, hey Amethyst. Then a cool boss fight happens and... oh. Hey, Pearl. All right, level 1's down, and we finally got the classic Crystal Gems gang all together. Let's go on an adventure! Oh God! The gems then travel to the Great North, aka the ice level. Steven's like, what are we doing here? And Garnet's like, shut up. But just then, another new spaceship appears, and it looks like Peridot's ship? But that can't be Peridot. She just called Steven. She's at the barn with Lapis playing video games. Well, after fighting probably another 100 light monsters, we finally catch up to the ship and find... suddenly, they pulled out some kind of evil potion that exploded at me, and then I died. You. So, this is Squaridot. She's a homeworld Peridot working for Hessenite, and she only seems to ever show up in video games. One boss fight later, and the gems successfully steal Squaridot's computer terminal. Don't worry about Garnet. Wait. Oh my God. You gotta be kidding me. Oh, I love this game, man. Anyway, with Squaridot and the computer terminal now in hand, the gang head over to the barn and meet up with Peridot and Lapis. Peridot and Squaridot get into a bit of an argument. Squaridot's like, dude, what are you doing? You're an embarrassment. But Perry's just like, open your mind, man. Eat the rich. And in all the arguing, the gang gets Squaridot to accidentally dish on Hessenite's location, the Strawberry Battlefield. Squaridot then nearly attacks in a rage, but Garnet poofs her, and we never see her again. Bye-bye, Squaridot. You don't get a redemption arc. Peridot checks out the computer terminal to try and pinpoint Hessenite's exact location at the battlefield, but says it'll take some extra time and resources. So she just joins the party. And this is where the game got really fun for me. See, of all the characters in this game, Perry runs the fastest. Couple that with this badge I found that increases a character's speed 30%, and... oh my God. The other characters can't even stay on screen. So, Peridot leads the gang to the Strawberry Battlefields and starts searching for materials to repair the terminal. In the meantime, Perry dishes a bit on Hessenite, telling Steven how Hessenites are military commanders. And the Hessenite they're dealing with is a big deal back on Homeworld, becoming a legendary war hero after she used the prism to wipe out tons of rebel gems on Earth. So, yeah. Hessenite bad. And after gathering enough materials, Peridot finally locates Hessenite at the Sky Arena. You know, that place Pearl got stabbed. So it's off to the Sky Arena. Oh hey, a boss. Off to the Sky Arena! The gang arrives just in time to find Hessenite in the prism and eavesdrop on their conversation. Hessenite's like,
Come on, man, you used to be cool. Now you're just embarrassing me.
she's been taking the prism all across Earth, visiting different locations from their battles to jog the prism's memory and turn it into a powerful weapon again. But the prism refuses to change out of its Steven form. So, frustrated, Hessenite pieces out and heads right back to the strawberry battlefield. Ugh, we just got here. Now we have to go back? Well, kinda. Hessenite heads back specifically to this giant crater in the ground. There used to be a massive pyramid temple here, but the gems kinda blew it up, and now it's just a big hole. But when the gems get back there, they find another teeny tiny pyramid at the bottom of the crater that definitely wasn't there before. They enter and find themselves at the top of a very long staircase. Yeah, I'm pretty glad I had Peridot for this one. What? How'd you get here? At the bottom of the stairs, there is a hole. We went down a hole, found another hole. I jumped down the hole. Our heroes land in this giant, ancient-looking chamber with a depiction on the wall of Steven's mom, Rose Quartz, being attacked by a bunch of light monsters. Now, that's gotta have some kind of effect on Steven. Nope. Nah, he's fine. Up the stairs, through the door, and across this very long bridge, and the gang once again finds Hessenite. She draws her sword at Steven and is like, You're the one who messed up my prism. I am going to kill you now. Peridot and Amethyst, who's here now, apparently, try to protect Steven, but Hessenite straight up wrecks them in a single strike. Garnet and Connie try to take a swing at her, only for Hessenite to wipe them out too, poofing Garnet and sending Connie and Greg, who's here now, apparently, flying off the bridge. This gem means business, dude. Pearl attacks her next, and they have one of those, like, anime-style mid-fight sword clash conversations. But while Hessenite goes on about how she has the power of God and anime on her side, Steven snuck off and grabbed the prism. But just as he grabs it, there's a sudden flash of light, and then we cut to Connie, who somehow survived a massive fall off a bridge. She gets up and is met by Peridot and Sapphire, of all people. Well, at least we know 2 of the poof gems reformed. The 3 of them team up to explore the pyramid and find the rest of the crew. Except you can't play as Sapphire. They only programmed moves for Garnet, I guess. Meanwhile, Greg, Amethyst, Pearl, and Ruby all either reformed or managed not to die upon impact and start doing the same thing. Everyone's running around the pyramid, solving puzzles, fighting monsters, and hoping Steven isn't, dead. And they did it all with a smile. Isn't that nice? But what about Steven? Well, he's... Oh god, he really is dead. Look at him, he's lost in purgatory. Suddenly, the beginning of this video feels kinda insensitive. Oh wait. Okay, never mind. He's not dead. He's just in one of those video game plot exposition dream worlds. He's fine. But here we learn a little bit more about Hessenite. From the looks of things, Hessenite was a celebrated general who was given the prism by her leader, Yellow Diamond. She used the prism to fight and win a bunch of battles during the rebellion, but was defeated by... who else? Rose Quartz. AKA Steven's mom, AKA Pink Diamond in disguise, AKA... Steven. But we're not supposed to know any of that yet. Rose knocked the prism out of Hessenite's hands, and I guess it just got lost in the shuffle during a retreat. Seems like an awfully important thing to just accidentally forget, but that's what happened. The prism was abandoned for years until the crystal gems found it and brought it back, and now we've gone full circle. Once Steven learns a sufficient amount of backstory, he wakes up and is found by Connie, Peridot, and Sapphire. They then make their way further through the pyramid, find the rest of the team, and Ruby and Sapphire reform Garnet just in time for a boss fight! Anyway, Steven starts getting visions from the prism, because of course he is. And this allows him to see where Hessenite's run off to. Apparently, she's found her way to the Forge. You know, that place where Bismuth tried to kill Steven? Yeah, there! In the game, it's just been a place to upgrade weapons, but once we follow Hessenite there, it opens up to reveal the final dungeon. But after fighting through wave after wave of increasingly powerful enemies, oh no! Hessenite got away! She hopped onto her ship and sped off to her much bigger warship hovering just above the Earth. And as powerful as the crystal gems are, they can't just fly into space. Well, I guess, except Lapis, but can't play as her in this game. So that leaves the gems with one last option. Hey! Wake up! That's right, after an entire game of just lounging around, Lion finally does something! Using Lion's portal powers, the gang hops right into Hessenite's warship, and just like that, we've reached the final fight. Hessenite's like, Hey, stupid dummies! I fixed my prism, so now I'm going to make you die. Yeah, so Hessonite managed to revert the prism back to being a weapon under her command and six it on the gems. A big fight ensues, and Steven starts trying to snap the prism out of it. It's a cool callback to the first game's final boss. I don't know, I think it's neat. And Steven manages to get through to the prism. But as soon as the prism starts to hesitate, Hessonite's like, oh, fine. Do it myself. And the real final boss starts. And either I'm really good at this game, or this fight was actually pretty easy. Connie learned this new move where she just stabs enemies a million times, so she's like crazy OP. Also, Hessonite spent most of the battle just attacking the prism instead of the gems. Rude. And also a pretty poor battle plan. So the gems finally knock out Hessonite and she falls to the ground. She admits that the prism isn't defective. She is. She's not perfect like she wanted to be, and wow, this sounds familiar. Yeah, so the ending of this game is like weirdly similar to the end of the main show, which wouldn't premiere for like 2 years. Except instead of being about a massive revolution aiming to topple an oppressive intergalactic empire, it's about a triangle. Hessonite admits that she's basically nothing without the prism. But since it activated for Steven, he should be the one to keep it. But Steven's like, man, are you missing the point? The prism should be allowed to choose who it wants to be. So Steven lets the prism decide for itself. Or I guess I have to decide? Why am I allowed to make this choice? Have I been the prism all along? And wait, I want to go with Hessonite. You can choose to let the villain win? I can't believe that's even an option. No, let the prism do its own thing, Jesus. So the prism goes off to live its life, Hessonite just kinda leaves, and the gems head back to the barn and have a pizza party. No, seriously, this game ends with a pizza party. I freaking love it. And that is Steven Universe Save the Light. Or at least that was my playthrough. Apparently there's multiple endings and a bunch of side quests I couldn't even get to in this video. But legit, this is probably my favorite TV show tie-in game I've ever played. It really encapsulates the vibe of Steven Universe in a really special way. The art, the different locations, the voice acting from the original cast, it all makes a Steven Universe fan like me feel right at home. But now it's over, and I have to go back to living in the real world, where Steven Universe is dead. Oh, thank God there's a sequel. Steven Universe Unleash the Light. The latest and probably last game in the Steven Universe Light trilogy of RPGs by Grumpy Face Studios. I've talked about the other games a few times, but I've yet to tackle this one, cause, you know, FNAF. But I think I'm finally ready to hop back into the world of Steven Universe and see how this trio of games ends. But I gotta warn ya, Steven Universe Unleash the Light takes place immediately after the finale of the original Steven Universe series, bridging the gap between that show and things like Steven Universe the movie and Steven Universe Future. So there will be spoilers here for the games and the show, but I don't want to waste too much time. So basically, in the show, Steven helped 3 alien dictators realize they need therapy, and they said, okay. And then, in the games, the gems fight this ultra-powerful gem weapon called a prism, which was controlled by Hessonite, a war general from the gem homeworld. But then Steven was like, look inside your heart, idiot. And the prism decided not to be a weapon anymore, Hessonite decided not to be evil anymore, the gems had a pizza party, and that's pretty much it. Now that we're all caught up, here's Steven Universe Unleash the Light. The game starts on Homeworld, where Steven is hanging out with the Diamond's various pearls, pink, blue, and yellow, and talking about his plans for this new era of peace for the gems. But then one of them says there's still the matter of the prisms. Yeah, prisms, as in more than one. Apparently there have been 3 prisms this entire time and just no one thought it was important to mention. Obviously one of the prisms was owned by Hessonite, but the others are currently owned by the gems Pyrope and Demantoid. The Pearls tried to contact them about deactivating their prisms, but never heard anything back. So Garnet, Amethyst, Pearl, and Steven all head out to investigate. They take a warp to this gigantic fancy prism palace, and almost immediately Pyrope and Demantoid appear on, like, floating FaceTime screens, and they're like, oh, it's you. Very productive conversation. So the gems are left with no choice but to get inside the palace and confront Pyrope and Demantoid in person. But there's this big rainbow door in the way that they can't get past on their own. Just then, completely out of nowhere, Hessonite's old prism shows up to just say hi to the gems. In all their soul searching since the end of the last game, they've developed a new form and new name for themselves. So this is George. They look like a squishmallow, and they've decided to tag along with the gems to help with their mission. Or at least, that's what it looks like. George talks in this prism language that only Steven seems to understand, so the gems are just kinda, taking Steven's word on all this, but George does help out by opening up the rainbow door so the gems can enter the palace. And of course, it's not that long before they get tossed into some battles. So now I think is a good time to give a quick rundown of Unleash the Light's gameplay. Like I said, it's a turn-based RPG, just like the last game, but where Save the Light was developed for consoles, Unleash the Light was developed for mobile first and came to consoles later. So things have been a bit simplified. Instead of running around big, expansive locations, the stages are broken up into much shorter levels that you explore by just jumping from screen to screen. No more Steven falling to his doom this time, unfortunately. However, the battles themselves are basically untouched. It's still turn-based, moves still cost points to perform, and you still have to press buttons at the right time to block or do more damage. You know, Paper Mario. There are a couple of new tweaks, but it still feels very much the same as the other games. It even brings back some of the sound effects and music from that game, so I kinda got into the swing of things pretty quick. So the gang keeps spreading their message of peace by killing everything that gets in their way, but eventually they reach a roadblock. Oh, that was my ringtone. Don't ask me why my ringtone is Aaron Hansen yelling, "Yeah, boy." Just don't question it. I forgot to put my phone on silent. Let's keep going. But eventually they reach a roadblock. Yes, another big rainbow door, but this time they're gonna need 3 matching keys to open it. Pearl just casually hacks into the mainframe to find out where Demantoid is hiding, and then she pieces out to gather more info, while the rest of the gems head out to follow that lead to Demantoid and collect the rainbow keys. And because the game says we can't have less than 4 characters in our party, the gems are now joined by Lapis, which is pretty cool, because she was one of the few gems you couldn't actually play as in the last game. And oh my god, I mean, look at this. Lapis's attack is insane. She's wiping enemies out in like 2 hits. Jesus. So with the new team assembled, the gems start tearing their way through level after level, beating up enemies, solving puzzles, and doing side quests along the way. And eventually, Pearl catches back up with the gems to share what she's learned about Pyrope and Demantoid. Apparently, these two saw Steven dismantle the Diamond's empire, and instead of embracing their new freedom, they decided that this was the perfect opportunity to swoop in and become the new gem dictators. And because they both got prisms, they just might have the power to do it. And thus, Pyrope and Demantoid become the latest in a long line of potential war criminals that Steven has to give a stern talking to. Dang it. You realize this is an RPG, right? We have to fight things? Like 8 whole stages go by before the gems realize, oh, Demantoid's not here. And then hop to another planet for more stages, more battles, more killing in the name of peace. Oh, speaking of killing in the name of peace, look, Bismuth is here. She heard about everything going on with the prisms and decided to help out, even bringing this box. She brought a box. This is the prism containment chest, which I'm sure you can tell is meant to contain and deactivate prisms. So, you know, I'm sure we'll find a purpose for that eventually. In the meantime, Bismuth joins the team and subsequently breaks the game. Not only does her main attack hit multiple enemies at once, but she can also mine for materials and craft buffs for the rest of the team, including one that cuts the points required to attack in half. Needless to say, I mainly used Bismuth for the rest of the game. Several stages later, and the gems finally catch up to Demantoid. And she's like, "You guys are lame, your prism is dumb, I will now do a kill on you." And we launch into a boss fight. But I employed my strategy of use Bismuth all the time, and Demantoid went down pretty quickly. Bismuth breaks out the prism containment chest only to be attacked, dropping the box, leaving Demantoid free to steal it, and here the game gives me a choice. I can either knock the box out of Demantoid's hand, or I can protect Bismuth by attacking the prism. Now, what I probably should have done was protect Bismuth. It seemed like, you know, the moral thing to do. But in a moment of panic, I instead chose to knock the box out of Demantoid's hands. Meaning, yeah, we did get the box back, but Bismuth... Ooh, yeah. Yeah, she got poofed. And I know that might seem like a big deal, but Lapis has been getting poofed during pretty much every battle, and she always comes back just fine. So ultimately, I think I made the right choice here. So with Bismuth now taking up residence in Steven's backpack, she'll be fine. The gems, now joined by Connie, follow another lead to track down Pyrope and Demantoid. They wind up on one of Blue Diamond's old colony planets, which seems to still be controlled by Pyrope. Just a whole lot of not much happens for a while. Just more stages, more battles, more bosses, and wait, weren't we supposed to be collecting rainbow keys or something? Oh yeah, I kind of forgot about that. It was kind of like the whole thing we were doing, wasn't it? Well, I've been playing for a while now. We needed 3 rainbow keys, and over the course of the game, I've collected, 20. Didn't even notice. Guess we should head back to the palace then. Just see what happens. The gems warp back to the palace and unlock that big rainbow door, only to be met by another door. Oh, and Hessonite. How'd you get here? Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. That's not Hessonite. That's a mysterious, nameless vigilante gem who just happens to sound and look just like Hessonite, here to help the crystal gems in secret. Not Hessonite shows up throughout the palace to give the gems super useful hints, such as you can unlock this door with a key, and open treasure chests sometimes if you feel like it, and don't you go asking questions. The gems just kind of let this all happen, then awkwardly get on with their mission, and finally they reach Pyrope's room. And Pyrope's like, oh, you stupid, 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 stupid. Yeah, for the big bad of the game, Pyrope went down easy. But anyone who's ever played an RPG knows there's never just one final boss. Nah, games like these aren't over until you fight some kind of otherworldly god creature. And would you look at that? Demantoid shows up, captures George, and forces a fusion between them and the other prisms, creating this gigantic, multi-armed angel of light. Now that's a final boss. So it's the gems against Pyrope, Demantoid, and the light monster. But they're not alone, because that mysterious vigilante gem shows back up and reveals herself to be Hessonite. Oh wow, what a surprise. But this is cool. We're really seeing how Hessonite's changed since the last game. Not only is she now fighting on the gem side, but she's clearly disgusted at how Pyrope and Demantoid are treating the prisms. It's really cool how these games genuinely are a connected saga of Steven Universe stories. You don't always get that with these kind of licensed games. Oh, right, fighting God. Almost forgot. Honestly, this fight wasn't all that tough either, but that might just be because I saved up a ton of items and just spammed my bismuth strategy over and over. I forgot to mention, bismuth reformed. Told you she'd be fine. And after knocking out all their health, Steven starts talking to the prisms. He's like, look inside your heart, you idiot, to help the prisms realize they don't have to be weapons anymore. It's a strangely familiar ending, as if there are two other Steven Universe games that end the exact same way. But to be fair, they do flip things on their head a bit, because this time, Steven trying to talk sense into the prisms doesn't actually work. But then Hessonite steps up to the plate and has a heart-to-heart with George specifically. She apologizes for how she treated them over the years and displays just how much she's changed. This really affects the prisms, leading to the big light monster disassembling and leaving Pyrope and Demantoid completely defeated. They start fighting with each other and accidentally poof themselves like idiots. The other prisms are set free just like George. Hessonite decides to stay at the palace and undo the wrongs committed by Pyrope and Demantoid, and the gems all head off for more adventure. And that was Steven Universe Unleash the Light. Pretty solid game. Yeah, it wasn't quite as exciting or expansive as Save the Light, and I did miss the extra locations and variety that game had. But all things told, this is still an enjoyable RPG that continues to just hit the nail on the head when it comes to capturing the Steven Universe vibe. And that's pretty much all I'm looking for with games like this. There is a DLC chapter about Square It Out returning, but it doesn't really play into the main story. And there's another mode that's basically just endless randomized battles. But for my purposes, yeah, the game's over. So I guess there's nothing left to say except, do you think Grumpy Face would add me in as a DLC character? Like if I asked really nice, make me canon, Grumpy Face! Steven Universe is an animated series that premiered on Cartoon Network all the way back in 2013. The show ran until January of 2019 with a total of 5 seasons. It then got a movie and an extra epilogue series, but the original Steven Universe series has now been over for 5.5 years. And if you know me even a little bit, you know that this is my favorite show of all time. I've not really made a secret of it, but it's also no secret that this show has been pretty divisive. It's the kind of show that people either love or hate. There's very little in between. And I've always thought the hate for this show was insanely unwarranted. But then I started thinking, I haven't actually watched the show all the way through since it ended. Am I the biased one? Do I even like this show? I mean, I'm a very different person now than when I started watching the show in 2017. I was 21 then. I'm 28 now. Ugh. Well, now I've kind of freaked myself out. I have to know. So I did it. I sat down and rewatched Steven Universe front to back for the first time ever to challenge my biases and see if I even like the show in the first place. So first off, for this video, I only want to talk about the original show, Steven Universe. The movie and the epilogue series Steven Universe Future are 100% part of the canon and all, but they're also kind of their own thing, and I want to dive more into detail on them in another video. So today, we're keeping it to the original Steven Universe. And if I'm gonna do this, I'm not holding back. We're gonna break this down. And of course, massive spoilers ahead. Here we go. Now you might be thinking, Foafy, haven't you already done a full recap on the story of Steven Universe? And the answer is yes. Obviously, it's my life's work. So I'm not gonna spend a whole lot of time recapping the plot of Steven Universe here. There's a whole other video for that, but for the quickest of context, Steven Universe is a show about aliens and trauma. Okay, maybe that's a bit much. Basics first. Steven Universe is about the Crystal Gems. They're a group of sentient alien rock creatures who protect the Earth. They live in a town called Beach City in this massive temple, and they warp around the world to fight different alien threats. We're talking about Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl. Each one is a skilled fighter with magical weapons and special powers. And Garnet is actually technically 2 gems fused together, which is something gems can do, by the way. Ruby and Sapphire. And then there's Steven, a 13-year-old fun-loving, half-human, half-alien abomination. Yeah, he's the son of Crystal Gem leader Rose Quartz, who's not around anymore. She gave up her physical form to have Steven, passing her gem onto him. The show then follows the adventures of Steven as he learns to hone his gem powers, make friends, and deal with the fallout of everything his mom did before he was born, all while learning the truth about his past and his family. One of the biggest pieces of the story is this massive gem war that's really only ever talked about. It was a big war over the fate of the Earth that went down way before the events of the show, and was between the leaders of the gem race, the Diamonds, and the Crystal Gem Rebels. The Diamonds wanted to hollow out the Earth and eradicate all its organic life to create a new colony to create more gems, spreading their empire across the stars. Like, you know, colonizers. Not very subtle, I guess, with that one. The Crystal Gems didn't want that, obviously, and to finally stop the fighting, Rose Quartz killed the Diamond who ran the Earth colony, Pink Diamond. Except, and this is the big spoiler here, 3, 2, 1, Rose Quartz was actually Pink Diamond all along. So it was a diamond in disguise rebelling against the other diamonds to save the Earth, faking her own death and starting a new life. And now Steven has Rose's gem, which makes him, technically, a diamond too. And after a series of fights, arguments, and alien invasions, Steven is able to reason with the diamonds, stop the fighting, and usher in a new era of peace. Hooray! Now, in general, I love this story. I think the themes they tackle about family, communication, and trauma are incredibly well done, and very important to be represented in shows for families. And, you know, speaking of representation, one of the more famous things about the show is its LGBT representation. The gem race is made up exclusively of femme-presenting people, besides Steven, who is boy, which allowed the show to depict a pretty progressive number of same-sex relationships for a family cartoon in the 2010s. Pearl and Rose being the first one we see, but then later on the show actually features a full-on same-sex wedding between the gems Ruby and Sapphire. It's really cute, and honestly just great to see family shows pushing the envelope for representation and progressiveness. The creators fought for this so hard, and I'm really glad they were able to make it happen. In general, I would say Steven Universe is a show about relationships, but also about communication and trauma. Just about every character is faced with some form of trauma they have to process. And we see a lot of different representations of how people might process difficult issues in their life. Some people completely lash out, some people are very reserved, some people go into complete denial, and others just have to go off and explore and find themselves afterwards. And even though there is plenty of action in the show, the overall message being the importance of honest communication over violence is fantastic, even if it is a little cheesy. I like cheese, what can I tell you? Over the course of the 5 seasons, I think all the twists and reveals are built up pretty well. Seeing Steven grow up and become more mature and aware of his role in all of this is interesting. He starts out very naive, but as the show goes on and he learns all the difficult truths about the gems and his mom, he's sort of forced to grow up really fast. He's living in his mom's shadow and dealing with an entire race of vengeful aliens who all force Rose's crimes onto him, leading to a pretty inevitable identity crisis and eventual acceptance of who he is. Meanwhile, all the other gems have their own arcs too. Pearl, who was Pink/Rose's right-hand gem back on their homeworld, fell in love with Rose and never quite got over her. She lived her life for Rose, and without her has had to learn to move on and form an independent identity of her own. Amethyst, the more immature of the trio at the start of the show, never quite felt like she fit in anywhere. Come to find out that she was technically made quote-unquote wrong. She was born late and came out half the size of other Amethyst gems. She always felt like she had to prove herself, and by the end of the show, she gains a much more rock-solid confidence in who she is and what she's meant to do. And Garnet already had all her character development before the show began. Yeah, she's basically just Garnet from start to finish.
I like me.
But speaking of start to finish, I think this story is great, but it's one hell of a slow burn. It is a pretty common criticism of Steven Universe, but the pacing is just all over the place at times. The show kind of starts with a bit of that season 1 syndrome. You know, when your friend's telling you about a show they love and they say, yeah, season 1's not that great, but once you get past that, the show gets really good. Now, I'm not gonna go that far. Season 1 isn't bad at all. It's just got a bit of a reputation of being lots of filler. And I won't lie, when I was first watching the show back in the day, I found the first season pretty aimless until you reach that final stretch of episodes. But upon rewatching, I was actually impressed at just how much the show utilized pretty much each and every episode to further the world building. You know, even if there isn't much of a moment-to-moment story arc taking place, just about every episode is providing a new bit of insight into the history of the gems, or a new development in Steven's powers, or a new character for Steven to bounce off of, or, most notably, foreshadowing events that literally won't take place for years after the original episodes premiered. Like, okay, this might seem like a totally random episode where Garnet gets addicted to Meat Beat Mania. How the hell did they get away with that name? But it's also one of the first times we see that Garnet has 3 eyes, and is a major piece of foreshadowing to the eventual reveal that she has the power to see the future, which itself is a bit of foreshadowing to Garnet being revealed as a fusion. And okay, this might seem like a pointless episode about Steven accidentally creating a race of watermelon clones of himself, but this is shockingly a huge setup that will become relevant in multiple seasons for the rest of the show. People called a lot of this stuff filler back in the day, and still kinda do now, but I really don't think that's fair. Now, obviously that's a pretty easy thing to say in retrospect. We got the full story and context now, so of course we can look back and notice things we missed. That doesn't really change the fact that on a first watch through, the show does feel kinda aimless sometimes. Quote-unquote filler episodes have always been a hot button issue with Steven Universe. You know, for a show about aliens and space wars and generational trauma, there sure are a lot of episodes that focus on a bunch of human characters just kinda doing whatever. You know, for every episode where it feels like the show is laser focused on moving the plot forward, it can feel like there are just as many episodes where nothing of consequence is happening. Now, most of the time I would argue that those are, again, adding to the world building. You know, if the show expects us to care about the fate of Beach City, we gotta spend some time there. Meet the people. Say hi to the neighbors. The bigger problem is the pacing of it all. You know, a perfect example of this is what, to me, is the peak of the series, the cluster arc, and what happens immediately afterwards. Now, this all starts midway through season 2, as one of the show's running villains, Peridot, reluctantly teams up with the Crystal Gems to stop this massive geoweapon called the Cluster threatening to destroy the world. So the group all move out to this barn and start working on a plan to save the planet. During this stretch of episodes, the show is solely focused on just following the Gems' efforts to stop the Cluster, and more importantly, the gradual redemption arc of Peridot. So for the last third of the season, even moving into season 3, this is just the show. There's no Beach City episodes, no time spent on unrelated human characters, the mayor, the pizza place, or anything like that. It's just the Gems all working towards one time-sensitive goal. There's a grand total of 2 episodes during this arc that aren't directly related to forwarding that goal, and are both meant to just be moments of respite for Steven's birthday. Other than that, it's all about the Cluster for nearly a dozen episodes straight. But after the Cluster is dealt with, things just sorta scatter, and they never really quite reach that same level of consistency again. The show sort of becomes aimless again as the main goals become more abstract, like finding out where the villain Jasper went, or helping this gem, Lapis, recover from a traumatic event and get used to life on Earth, etc., etc. All very important storylines that really add to the themes that I was talking about before with trauma, and they all lead to great episodes, but the show just loses the momentum it was running with and never really gets it back, to be honest. A lot of things are happening, but they feel more like one-off stories and dominoes being set up while we wait for the next big goal to work towards, you know, like the Cluster. A couple of seasons later, there's this big story arc about Steven's dad being abducted by the Diamonds and kept in a human zoo. This is treated like a big deal by the show, but the entire arc only lasts like 5 episodes before it's over and we're back to slice of life stuff, sort of aimlessly wandering around waiting for the next big plotline to appear. One of the most important arcs in the show, the one where Steven and his human friend Lars get abducted and brought to Homeworld, is, you know, teased for a couple episodes, but properly starts with the second to last episode of season 4, but then it only lasts for 6 episodes before it's back to Steven helping the mayor and starting a band with his friend Sadie. I like the Beach City episodes, I really do, but by the second half of the series, the way these episodes are paced out really does feel off. I assume this has something to do with the infamous Steven bomb release strategy the show had for a while, where the show would disappear for months on end and then then randomly they'd pick a week and drop a new episode every single day. And then it was right back to months of Steven drought. I have to imagine that that's why a lot of these later story arcs only last 5 or 6 episodes before we get, 5 or 6 episodes of a breather. And that's really my issue here. I don't have any real problems with the actual story. No one's motivations or actions feel off to me. None of the twists feel unearned or disappointing to me. And even the moments throughout the story that I found less interesting or more frustrating, I understood where they were coming from and the part they played in the bigger picture. It really is just the pacing. But I will say, one thing I always liked about Steven Universe was just how much the writers thought through everything. So many things that you think don't matter the first time they show up always wind up becoming relevant later. Okay, actually, you know what? That might be a problem I do have with the show. Sometimes this obsession with continuity and laying the dominoes early gets stretched a little far. Is it cool when the popular kid Buck Dewey asks Steven's dad to give him guitar lessons in season 1, and then by season 5 we see him playing in Sadie's band? Yeah, it's cute. And is it cute that the t-shirt cannon Steven finds in episode 2 reappears in that same later episode when Steven assassinates the president? Of course! That's a real thing, by the way. That's a scene from Steven Universe. They say the show's non-violent. But when you're reaching the end of season 4 and this massive plot development relies entirely on the viewers remembering one scene from season 1 where Steven talked to Peridot on Zoom, I think things are getting a little ridiculous. It's clever, I guess, but even on a rewatch, when I got to this point in the show, I genuinely couldn't remember what episode they were calling back to for the life of me. It just feels like maybe they were trying a little too hard. But, overall, aside from a few minor annoyances and some pacing issues, I think the story Steven Universe attempted to tell was really well done and clearly very well planned out to the tiniest detail. And even some of the things that feel like issues on a first watch are given some extra sense and context with a rewatch. Okay, if it's not obvious by this thing you see on your screen right now, hi, yes, right here, I'm a pretty big fan of Steven Universe's art style. I've always been a big fan of bright, cool tone pastel colors, blue, pinks, greens, purples, the like. So the look of this show appealed to me right away. I mean, look at my shoes. You're telling me you'd see me walking down the street in these gushers and not assume I'm a Steven Universe fan? Come on. Overall, I think this show just looks like what I want a cartoon to look like. Bright, colorful, cute, and simple, but always with the chance to surprise you with some absolutely stunning visuals when it wants. I love the small details, like the kind of crayon or maybe charcoal style line detailing in the backgrounds. And the settings can range from super detailed and fully realized fantasy worlds that make you just want to deep dive into the lore of the place, all the way to just gorgeous abstract art with fantastic color choices. And the animation itself, most of the time, is pretty good. Yeah, obviously, even among the most popular and successful animated shows, you're not likely to get the kind of intensely detailed fluid animation you'd expect to see in like a Disney movie or something. They got budgets. So for the kind of show it is, the animation in Steven Universe works perfectly, and the people who made it really knew exactly how to play with it. They're able to tailor the animation styles to the tone of the show perfectly. They don't always stick exactly on model, and I think it actually adds to the charm. When the show's being goofy and stupid, the drawings get more exaggerated and wacky, but when a fight breaks out, the movement can get more solid and rigid, and the fights get the weight that they need to feel impactful. And of course, when things get more dramatic, the characters are reined in and more on model, but then the animators get to flex the freaking gloopiest crying animation in the industry. Seriously, this show has probably the most intense way of drawing tears that I've ever seen, and they use it a lot. A perfect example of this show's art and animation being in top form is the first episode I ever saw, and one of my favorites, The Answer. This is the episode where we finally get Garnet's backstory in full, and it's just a visually stunning piece of TV. It's the show really firing on all cylinders. Music, visuals, story, and characters all basically at a peak, with that extra dash of lore and world building that I know you guys love. Now, a lot of what I've complimented the show on here is pretty obvious, right? I mean, yeah, it's a cartoon made by professionals. Of course it's gonna be bright and colorful and cute. Well, I bring this up to highlight the fact that there was almost a world where this wasn't the case. Have you ever seen the Steven Universe pilot? Yeah, it looked like this, and I am not a fan. It's darker, heavier shadows, the characters have more realistic proportions and just different designs altogether. I don't know. If the whole show had looked like this, I don't know if I'd have clicked with it the same way. I mean, even in season 1, the drawings can be off. Not bad at all, but definitely a little goofy at times. I already mentioned that the show can take things off model sometimes, but in season 1, it's kind of all the time. Personally, that doesn't really bother me, but it is just another thing that kind of adds to the slightly awkward clunkiness of season 1. It's not really until season 2 that I think the show really nails its art style. Characters get cuter, more compact, we start getting some greater variety in the settings and atmosphere, and then by season 4, we're getting imagery like this. In my opinion, the show visually started out a little rough around the edges, got pretty good, and then just improved and improved and improved by the end. And to my taste, is just what I like a modern cartoon to look like. Don't get me wrong, I love seeing the wide variety of art styles you can find across the world of animation. But I don't know, sometimes you just find a style that's comfortable for you, and this is that for me. Yeah, but enough about all that. What about the important stuff? What about the vibes? How's this show's vibe? Now, I understand this is maybe getting a little abstract, but to my eye, the vibes of a show is just sort of an amalgamation of its tone. The humor, the drama, the action, things like that. So let's talk about it. First off, the drama in Steven Universe, I think is done pretty dang good. Especially as you get towards the end of the show, things can get really tense. The whole arc where Steven learns the truth about Rose Quartz actually being Pink Diamond is a great example. At the end of a random episode, Steven has a vision dream where he sees Pink Diamond about to be shattered by Pearl, which is obviously misdirecting the audience to think that Pearl killed Pink Diamond. And it's not until the very end of the next episode that we learn the truth. And Pearl's memory of how she and Rose faked Pink's shattering, I think was pulled off flawlessly. When the show wants to be big and dramatic, it can be very intense and heartbreaking. Yeah, obviously, the writing itself is carrying a lot of the weight here. You know, a scene where Steven is nearly killed by a gem who was poofed and hidden away by his mom long before he was born, or a scene where a gem gets corrupted and screams in anguish right before turning into a monster, those present a lot of natural drama with conflicting emotions. But it's how the music shifts to these abrasive, droning synths, sometimes accompanied with these wild whirring noises, almost like something out of Silent Hill, and the absolutely killer performances by all the actors. Those are the things that really elevate the natural drama of the scene to something that really just kicks you in the teeth. But that being said, this is still a family show on Cartoon Network. So basically, anytime the drama reaches a peak, we usually get some kind of lighthearted stuff directly after to break the tension. And while this is totally normal for kids shows, it can get a little distracting the further you get into the series. Like right after Pearl tells Steven the truth about Rose and Pink, the next episode starts with a mostly comedic scene where the gems just sort of freak out about everything. The episode does later get back to the serious stuff, but this happens a few times throughout the series, and it can just get frustrating to see really great drama be undercut for comedy. Especially because, for the most part, I don't actually find Steven Universe very funny. Yeah, this part makes me kind of feel bad. I love comedy. I'm saying it like Bo Burnham. The vast majority of my favorite cartoons in existence, I love because of how unique or effective or witty their humor is. And so for my favorite show to leave me cold when it comes to the comedy is just such a bummer. Now don't get me wrong, Steven Universe isn't unfunny. Big difference there. A show being unfunny is a lot worse. That's when a show's failing every attempt at humor so bad that it's annoying or embarrassing. Steven Universe isn't unfunny, it's just not very funny to me. You know, there are a few scattered jokes that really do hit for me, most of which are either one-off lines that subverted my expectations, or later in the series, jokes that sort of play off the amount of development we've seen the characters go through. Which, you know, at that point, it's basically more like a random inside joke than anything else. But for the most part, when Steven Universe tries to be funny, I just tend to feel indifferent, at best, really. At worst, it can be pretty awkward and a little cringy. However, I will say, one of the funniest episodes of the show is, unfortunately, an episode that should have literally never existed. So there's this show called Uncle Grandpa. It was a Cartoon Network series in the early 2010s that, you know, no hate to anyone who worked on it, but I absolutely detest. Legit, I can't put my finger on what it is, but this show just always elicited a visceral negative reaction from me. It's about a guy named Uncle Grandpa, his dinosaur friend Mr. Gus, their giant realistic flying tiger, and the death of comedy, a slice of pizza with sunglasses named Pizza Steve, whose only joke is that he's a slice of pizza with sunglasses named Pizza Steve. At least that's the only joke I remember him having. I refuse to watch this show to confirm. But, you know, it's this wacky, quirky, random, surrealist show that I just remember being pure brain rot stupidity. And not really in the fun or clever way like Billy and Mandy or something. This is a show that I would categorize as legit unfunny, from what I remember. And back at the very start of Steven Universe Universe Season 2, for April Fool's Day, Steven Universe and Uncle Grandpa did a crossover. Hooray! And despite my long-running hatred for Uncle Grandpa, this is actually a fun episode. Not really because of anything the Uncle Grandpa characters do. I think Uncle Grandpa got like a couple decent lines, but, you know, Pizza Steve still makes me want to break a man's legs. A second joke! No, the comedy here comes from putting these absolutely chaotic characters into the much more grounded world of Steven Universe. Weird that the world with aliens and sentient rocks is the more grounded one here, but, you know, whatever. And focusing on how the crystal gems react to such an agent of chaos infiltrating their world. This episode is saved by Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl. Pearl absolutely loses her mind, providing a really good showcase for how fun and exaggerated the drawings can get when they want to hammer in a joke. Plus, Garnet just straight up breaks the fourth wall, and savior of our time, Amethyst, murders Pizza Steve. Amen. In my opinion, there was no reason for this episode to exist, but it showed that when Steven Universe chose to focus on pure comedy, it can work really well, even in the face of true adversity. But overall, the show doesn't focus purely on comedy. And of the many elements at play in Steven Universe, I think the humor tends to be the weakest. And before I move on, I want to talk about one more element to this show's vibes that I genuinely did not expect to talk about in regards to Steven Universe: horror. Okay, so is Steven Universe scary? No. But are there some scenes that are way more creepy and disturbing than you'd ever expect from a show like this? Absolutely. I first noticed this in the episode Too Many Birthdays, where Steven nearly dies from a weird gem power side effect that ages him rapidly and uncontrollably. This is treated so seriously. This shot from Steven's perspective as he's wheezing, his vision's going blurry, and his hearing fades, all while the gems just panic, this was genuinely so unsettling. And there's way more moments like this than I remembered. Like when Steven and Garnet first discover the experimental gem mutants, these things were the homeworld's attempts at a forced artificial gem fusion. Pieces of gems broken apart, stitched together, and forced to form. But what resulted were these monstrous mutant crimes against nature. And when Garnet first sees them, she is genuinely horrified to the point that she nearly falls apart and lets her and Steven get killed. For a kid's show, this is bordering on body horror. It's genuinely pretty intense for a show like this, and it's pulled off so well. It's genuinely impressive. So overall, the vibes are good. Pretty good. But arguably, one of the most famous things about Steven Universe is, of course, the music. Rebecca Sugar, the creator of Steven Universe, is a fantastic songwriter, and the show had some equally amazing musicians writing the score. I always loved how synthetic and, 8-bit chiptune video game driven the music in this show is. It's a pretty instantly iconic sound at this point. But what I really want to talk about here are the actual songs in the show, the musical numbers. Yeah, if you're not aware, Steven Universe is also occasionally a musical. The songs make up some of the show's most iconic moments, and there's enough of them to make up multiple soundtrack compilation albums. But in general, I'm actually pretty mixed about most of the show's songs. Especially in the early seasons, the songs in Steven Universe can be pretty rough. I mean, okay, they're fun and usually really cute moments in the show, but as just standalone songs, I don't think I would ever go out of my way to listen to them. And unfortunately, most of that has to do with this guy, Greg Universe. Yeah, a lot of early Steven Universe songs are sung by Steven's dad. And even his voice actor, Tom Sharpling, will tell ya, dude can't sing. He is a fantastic voice actor. Dude can't sing. The rest of the cast, though, have really great voices. I mean, Pearl and Garnet are voiced by professional singers. But, aside from a few tracks, the non-Greg songs in the early seasons are still kind of forgettable most of the time. Except Giant Woman. Giant Woman's the show's first classic. Everyone loves Giant Woman. And Stronger, Garnet's big number from the season 1 finale. Those are the two. But for the most part, I don't feel like the songs really clicked for me until season 3 with the episode Mr. Greg. This is a one-off episode that is a full-fledged musical front to back, with like 5 or 6 songs. And it just feels like a switch was flipped here, and the songs, their writing, their performance, and their production are all just taken way more seriously. And all for the better, too. Pearl's big song, It's Over, Isn't It, is a series highlight, and the first time the show's songs really hit for me. It's a Broadway-level ballad about Pearl's heartbreak over Steven's mom. And Dee Dee Magno Hall's performance is so controlled bold and emotional, the instrumental is lush, and the visuals are just stunning. This is actually a perfect example of how well the show handles its drama, even in quieter moments. This whole episode is great, but I think this one song just single-handedly raised the bar for all Steven Universe songs to follow. After this, we got real gems like Here Comes a Thought, That Distant Shore, the song from Ruby and Sapphire's wedding, Escapism, Familiar, just so many songs that are genuinely fantastic. But yeah, unfortunately, there's still a lot of songs in the second half of the show that I really could have done without. For some reason, the show really started focusing on that one character Sadie's new band, Sadie Killer and the Suspects. They're a gimmicky horror rock band whose songs I just never really liked. But the show got real hyper-focused on them for a little while, so there's a decent amount of that, unfortunately. And then, yeah, I feel like this might be a controversial take, but I really don't like Yellow Diamond's song, What's the Use of Feeling Blue? Look, Yellow Diamond's voice actor, Patti LuPone, is inarguably a Broadway legend. And I can tell that there is a solid bittersweet villain song in here, but the final product, to my ear, is just a mess, dude. The beat never quite feels steady, the instrumentation is weirdly abrasive, the lead vocals feel a little too freeform, and the backing vocals just don't feel in sync. All of which leads to this song feeling directionless, clunky, and all over the place. I'm not really sure what the fan consensus is on this song, but honestly, it's one of my least favorites. I don't know, maybe I'm weird, but overall, the songs in Steven Universe, while a classic part of the series, are mostly just okay to me. There are some real bright spots in there that I do think justify the rest, but I could take or leave like 60% of the songs in the original series. Now, the music in the movie and the future series are a completely different story that I will get to another day. So what's everyone's problem? You know, why has Steven Universe been so incredibly controversial and hated over the last decade when ultimately it seems pretty well made and harmless? Maybe this is getting a little bit too hot takey, but I think it comes down to two major things that are really prominent on the internet at large: fandom bias and bad faith criticism. Look, if you don't like Steven Universe, that's fine. I can understand it even. I don't like macaroni and cheese, even though it's one of the most beloved foods of all time. It's a texture thing. This is gloopy and weird. And even though Steven Universe is one of my favorite shows, I totally understand why someone wouldn't like it. My dad couldn't stand it. But this like intense, visceral hatred of the show that I've seen pop up over the years has just always baffled me. And honestly, while I 100% welcome criticism of the media that I love, I think a lot of this hate towards the show itself is kinda unwarranted. First, you got what I've been calling fandom bias, which I think is pretty simple. There's a lot of people who form an inherent disdain for a show, movie, game, musical artist, or whatever solely because they find the fandom annoying or problematic. This is actually really common across all media. I don't really interact with fandom spaces myself, but coincidentally, a lot of my favorite things have been cursed by this kind of fandom bias. Steven Universe is maybe the biggest one, but I'm also a big fan of K-pop, emo music, Five Nights at Freddy's, Sonic the Hedgehog, and a ton of big YouTube channels. All of which are things that people will just write off, put down, or outright hate on, due mostly to the preconceived notions of the fandom that surrounds them. Even though the media itself is home to some really impressive stuff if they, just looked for it. Even if they still didn't like it, I guarantee they'd find more to appreciate about it by actually giving it a chance instead of just saying, "What, Steven Universe? Isn't that show with all the annoying fans?" No, I'm not watching that. And there is some bad in the Steven Universe fan base. I'm not gonna deny that. Like intense, awful, inexcusable bad. But that is not a story for today, and it's also not the show's fault. Look, every fandom has toxic stuff. Every fandom can be toxic. You'd be shocked at just how much toxicity and drama there is in the dang Pokemon card fandom. It's everywhere, not just in Steven Universe. And I don't think it's fair to write off an entire show because of the worst of its fan base. But the other thing that I think makes up a lot of Steven Universe's backlash comes from bad faith criticism. Now, like I said, I welcome critique of the media that I like. Steven Universe ain't perfect, and as I've outlined in this video, some of the more prominent criticisms of the show are pretty legit, like the pacing of the filler episodes and the release schedule and things like that. But I've seen a lot of criticism online for things like the art. For example, some people really seem to get upset at how Steven Universe characters aren't always on model. Sometimes Peridot is taller than Steven, sometimes she's not. Sometimes Steven is 3 feet tall, sometimes he's 3 inches tall. The character art isn't always consistent. And I've seen a number of people floating this criticism around to say the show is bad or lazy. And can I just say I don't care? I really couldn't give a flying... how do I say this without swearing? shit if the characters are a little differently sized sometimes. Even if I notice it and I find it strange, it doesn't affect my enjoyment of the show in the slightest. And personally, it's just one of those things that I can't see how that is the thing that makes it impossible for you to enjoy a show. I know I talked about the awkward season 1 drawings earlier, but even if I do find those goofy or awkward, it's still part of the charm to me. It never made the show bad. Again, maybe I'm getting a little bit spicy, but if this is enough to make you call the show bad, then you probably were never gonna like the show to begin with. And that's okay. I don't know, it just feels like nitpicky, bad faith criticism, which in my opinion is what makes up the majority of the real vitriolic hate towards Steven Universe. Now I understand that I'm biased, but even trying to remove my personal opinion from the equation, I just don't think criticisms like this hold much water when it comes to the overall quality of the show. There's a lot of other critiques of the show like this, some that are maybe a little bit more valid, some that are way less valid, but honestly, this video is long enough, and I'm not about to compile a list of viral tweets and Tumblr posts just to say the same thing over and over again. The bottom line, if your criticism of a cartoon boils down to calling the animators and artists lazy, you're probably acting in bad faith. And it's okay to just not like a show because you don't like it. That's my take on it anyway. So whatever, I've been yapping for a while now, a whole
33 minutes.
And to avoid getting any deeper into the weeds as I already am, I feel like I just need to ask the question. Now that I've rewatched the series from front to back and really solidified my thoughts, do I actually like Steven Universe? Yeah. Duh.